Chapter 1741. The next day, Yi Qianqian returned home after a day of work, but old Shun was not home. Fang Tongtong was not home either. Yi Qianqian raced against time to finish her work, only to come home to an empty house. She called Shun Jilia. The moment the call connected, she heard voices coming from the other end of the line. "Hello, you're not back yet?" Yi Qianqian's voice carried a hint of coquettishness. "I thought I could have dinner when I got back." "Yeah, I have to work overtime today. There's a patient who isn't in good condition. I'm a little busy, so I forgot to tell you. Go out with your bestie to eat." "Oh, okay. Take care and come back early." "Okay." Yi Qianqian hung up the phone and called Fang Tongtong. Fang Tongtong was sitting leisurely in a cafe. When she received Yi Qianqian's call, she slowly picked it up. "Hi, Qianqian. Where are you?" "I'm at home. Where are you?" "Old Shun is working overtime today, so he's not home. I haven't eaten yet. I'm at Xingye Square. Come over. Let's go have hot pot." "Hot pot? It's such a hot day. It's my treat. I'll be right there." Fang Tongtong smiled and hung up the phone. She continued to browse the web on her phone. It was a guide to a short-term trip to Kingstown. Yi Qianqian and Fang Tongtong had hot pot together. After that, they went shopping and bought a lot of clothes. In addition to all kinds of clothes, there were also pajamas. They didn't return home until after 10 p.m. Shun Jilia was reading some documents on the sofa in his pajamas. When he saw them return, he only glanced at them before he lowered his head and asked, "Have you eaten?" "Yes, we want to buy a lot of clothes." Yi Qianqian waved the shopping bag in her hand. "What did you eat tonight?" "I haven't eaten yet. Go take a shower. I'm a little busy." Shun Jilia looked at the documents with a frown. "There have been a lot of women committing suicide recently. What's going on?" Fang Tongtong was a little curious. She placed the shopping bag on the sofa and sat down to look at Shun Jilia. Yi Qianqian glanced at him. After she closed the door, she asked, "How busy are you?" "You haven't eaten yet. Let me cook you a bowl of noodles." "Okay, don't put cilantro in it." Yi Qianqian pursed her lips and headed into the kitchen. Fang Tongtong asked curiously, "What did you mean by committing suicide?" "Oh, it's like this. This female patient is an elite returee. She's an executive of a large company. She was pursued by a man during a business meeting. After the two of them fell in love, the man's wife suddenly appeared and beat her up. She called her a mistress and even scratched her car. She wrote a lot of nasty words on it. Oh, and then Fang Tongtong was obsessed with all kinds of gossip. She rested her chin on her hands and looked at Shun Jilia seriously. Then, the woman went to the man to settle the score. When she was with the man, she didn't know that he had a wife. After they found each other, the man begged her not to break up with him. He promised that he would divorce his wife soon. But in the end, because his wife's family was rich and powerful, he couldn't bear to part with her, and the woman got pregnant. F***CK. That's so melodramatic. Fang Tongtong was shocked. And then, after that, the wife of the first wife beat the woman up again and caused her to have a miscarriage. After the incident, she was fired from the company, and the man disappeared without a trace. It could be said that he had nothing left. He was even cursed by others. In the end, he couldn't take the pressure and committed suicide at home. He didn't die. Chapter 1742. "Huh, what's your rank in your hospital?" From his tone, it sounded like he was at a very high rank. Shun Jilia replied without even lifting his head, "Department Director. D***MN. You're already a director at such a young age? D***MN. Fang Tongtong looked like she was about to collapse. That can't be. Aren't directors usually in their 40s or 50s? You're such a young director. Are you serious? When Shun Jilia heard that, he chuckled and said, "Didn't Qianqian tell you?" "Of course not. She didn't even say a word. Look at how well she hid you. She didn't even tell me about such a big thing." Sigh. Yi Qianqian had just put the noodles into the pot. When she heard that, she felt a little smug and said, "I'll just keep it to myself. Why should I tell you? Will this patient be difficult to handle?" "A little. He's having a mental breakdown. Based on his recent situation, he's showing signs of schizophrenia. If he doesn't handle it properly, he might just go crazy." Shun Jilia was a little sympathetic. There are too many scumbags in this world. Exactly. There are too many scumbags. Fan Tong Tong was also indignant. If only all the men in this world were like you. You can't say that. If everyone was like me, how could they highlight my excellence? Shenjulia did not hold back at all. Yi Qianqian heard him from inside and snorted. Shameless. Can't you be a little more humble? There's no use in being humble. The halo of a genius like me can't be suppressed just because I'm humble. Uff. Fong Tong Tong lifted her clothes. Hey, I don't even know how to respond to you like this. You should echo me and compliment me at a time like this, Shenjulia kindly reminded her. If you're cheated by a scumbag in the future, you can come to our hospital. I'll give you an insider discount. Puffed. Fong Tong Tong picked up an apple and threw it at him. Shut up. Shenjulia dodged and casually caught the apple. He put it back and said with a smile, I was thinking too much. A tough scumbag like you wouldn't dare to provoke you. Fong Tong Tong became even angrier. Are you saying that I'm too manly to get married? Qianqian, don't you care about your man? Yi Qianqian came out with a bowl of noodles and placed it in front of Shenjulia. She sat down beside him and said, What he said is the truth. You're so unfeminine. Isn't it normal that you can't get married? Husband and wife, you two are too hateful. Fong Tong Tong grabbed the bag of clothes and stood up. Then, she headed to her room. I'm going to ignore you guys. However, as soon as he turned around, the smile on his face disappeared. They seemed to be a perfect match for each other. Fong Tong Tong headed straight for the bedroom. Shenjulia's voice sounded from behind her. It smells so good. Haha, isn't it fragrant? It's fine if I don't cook, but once I do, I'll amaze you to death. Shenjulia sniffed the air and said with disdain, Just a few compliments, and you're getting all high and mighty. Bah, you dare to say it's not? Yes. Fong Tong Tong closed the door. She felt upset. Looking at the gym full of fitness equipment in front of him, he slowly walked up. Over the next 2 days, Shenjulia was as busy as a bee. Fong Tong Tong went to play on her own during the day. After Yi Qianqian got off work, the two of them went around together. Another night passed, and Shenjulia still hadn't returned from working. Chapter 1743. She looked at the time. It was already past 10 p.m. After Yi Qianqian showered, she called Shenjulia. The phone rang for a long time, but no one picked up. Fong Tong Tong was playing games on the sofa. When she saw Yi Qianqian like this, she said, Why are they so strict? He's not even married yet, and he's already like this. If he's married, it'll be terrible. When Yi Qianqian heard the teasing, she became even more impatient and said irritably, Old Shun hasn't been away for so long. In the past, he would call back to report that he's safe and sound. It's already so late, and there's no news at all. How can this be? Well, maybe he's busy. Don't worry too much. A man like Old Shun wouldn't mess around outside. No. Yi Qianqian's heart beat faster. She subconsciously reached out to touch her chest and whispered, I keep feeling that something will happen to him. Don't think too much. Nothing will happen. Fong Tong Tong didn't mind. She paused the game and poured her a glass of water. Dry your hair. He'll be back in a while. Yi Qianqian took the glass, but she wasn't in the mood to drink it. She continued to call Shenjulia. She called several times in a row, but no one picked up. Kingstown Huxin Hospital. Hurry up. What are you waiting for? Where's the patient? She's under control. We've given her a sedative for now, but she can't stay in our hospital in such a situation. Stay? Stay my ass. Director Shun is already like this. Who would dare to stay? Hurry up and give him a blood transfusion. The people in the psychology department were busy rushing back and forth. Everyone looked like they were in a hurry. It was past 11 p.m. when the hustle and bustle slowly came to a stop. A doctor walked to the department director's office and found that Shenjulia's phone had more than a dozen missed calls. The note on it was clear. Future wife, love. When the doctor saw those words, he sighed, picked up the phone, turned around, and walked out. Yi Qianqian couldn't sleep. Shenjulia had never been like this. It was like he had disappeared into thin air. After tossing and turning, she finally got upset. She got up and logged into Shenjulia's WeChat account. The password for all of Shenjulia's social media accounts was the same. After Yi Qianqian logged in without any trouble, she immediately found Luo Ran. He sent a question mark over, followed by 2 words. Are you there? Yi Qianqian thought that Luo Ran would be either clubbing or having sex at this hour, so he wouldn't be able to recover quickly. But who knew that there would be an instant reply? Luo Ran. Here, Luo Ran. Another problem? Yi Qianqian looked at the words and said in a voice message, I'm Shun Julia's girlfriend, Yi Qianqian. It's already so late, and old Shun hasn't come back yet. I called him more than 20 times, but he didn't pick up. Do you know where he is? It was rare for Luo Ran to be a good boy at home, so he would watch a few comedies at home to relax. When he heard Yi Qianqian's voice, his heart skipped a beat. Tensing up, she straightened her back and typed a reply. This guy hasn't gone home yet? Is the phone in your hand now? Shun Julia. No, I just logged into his WeChat to ask you. Luo Ran. Well, I don't know. I'm in the capital. Isn't he in Kingstown? Chapter 1744. Shun Julia. Yeah, I think so too. Yi Qianqian had already changed her clothes. After putting on her shoes, she walked out. When Luo Ran saw her reply, he immediately felt that it was inappropriate. After thinking about it, he said, Why don't I ask him? Sister-in-law, don't be nervous. This guy is good at fighting. He can easily take on 2 people at once. Don't worry. When Yi Qianqian heard that, she didn't feel at ease. She thought about the female patient he mentioned a few days ago, who was likely to go crazy. What if that woman really went crazy? A madman doesn't need to bear legal responsibility for killing someone. The more Yi Qianqian thought about it, the more scared she became. She picked up her bag and opened the door. Fong Tong Tong saw her and asked, Where are you going? I'm going to look for old Shun. He's a man. What are you worried about? He just came back a little late. If you find him and he's fine, he might even say that you're too strict with him. Then it'll be awkward. Fong Tong Tong stood up. If he's at a party, he'll definitely be laughed at by his friends. How will he face the world then? Yi Qianqian didn't stop in her tracks. At that moment, her phone suddenly vibrated. It was a phone call. The caller was Shun Julia. Yi Qianqian quickly picked up the phone. Hello. Yeah, it was Shun Julia's voice. Yi Qianqian breathed a sigh of relief and shouted anxiously, Where are you? Shun Julia looked like he had just woken up from a dream and said, I got off work early today. My colleagues dragged me out for a drink. I got drunk, so I didn't answer the phone. Yi Qianqian had been worried for so long, but this was the answer she had been waiting for. She suddenly felt that her worries were unnecessary. Gritting her teeth, Yi Qianqian slammed the half-open door shut and said, I'll drink you to death. Where are you? I'll pick you up. There's no need. I'm resting at my colleague's house. Oh, right. I have to go back to my hometown in the capital tomorrow. Something happened with my brother. I have to go back as soon as possible. Shun Luoan? Yeah. Shun Julia replied faintly. His voice sounded a little weak. When Yi Qianqian heard that, she knew that he had drunk too much and wasn't in a good state. She was a little annoyed, but there was nothing she could do about it. She asked, What time is your flight tomorrow? I'll pack your luggage and send it over. Where's your colleague's house? It's fine. It's a male colleague. If you don't believe me, I'll let him answer the phone. As he spoke, there was a soft noise coming from the other end. No, she just wanted to see him. It had been a whole night, and her heart was still hanging in the air, feeling very uncomfortable. Yi Qianqian swallowed the words that were on the tip of her tongue. Sister-in-law, nice to meet you. I'm Zhou Daowei Xiao Zhou. Mr. Shun had dinner at my house, and we drank a little too much. It's late now, and Mr. Shun is not in a good state. We have to catch a plane back to the capital tomorrow morning. It's better to rest at my place. Xiao Zhou sounded rather sober. Yi Qianqian was silent for a moment before asking, We didn't drink? Little Zhou seemed a little embarrassed. I've been suffering from gastric bleeding recently. My wife won't let me drink it, so I can only force other brothers to drink it. I'm sorry, sister-in-law, but I'll have to trouble you to stay alone tonight. I won't ask Chief Shun to come down again, I promise. Chapter 1745. All right, Xiao Zhou felt as if he had been pardoned. In that case, sister-in-law, Brother Shin seems to have fallen asleep again. I'll hang up now. Okay, thank you for your hard work. You're welcome. Xiao Zhou hung up the phone in trepidation before heaving a huge sigh of relief. Xiao Zhou returned the phone to Shun Julia with a pained expression and said, "Brother Shun, is it really okay to lie to sister-in-law like that? I think it's better to tell her." Shun Julia lay on the hospital bed. His eyes were squinted, and his face was extremely pale. A soft tube was attached to his arm, and a transparent liquid was slowly being transferred into his body. When he heard Xiao Zhou's words, Shun Julia opened his eyes and said, "It'll be even worse if I tell her. She'll be worried. Are you going to stay in a hospital just like that? With your injuries, you'll need to stay here for at least some time. It won't do if you don't have a woman to take care of you. It's fine. Go back to work. I can take care of it myself." Xiao Zhou panicked when he heard that. "What can you take care of? That's such a big wound, and you've lost so much blood. It's good enough that you're still alive. How are you going to survive? You might not even be able to use your arm for the rest of your life. If you don't take good care of it, we'll see who gets the short end of the stick in the future. It's my bad luck to have such a patient." Shun Julia smiled bitterly as he looked at his arm, which had more than 10 stitches. "Where's the woman?" "Sigh. She's been sedated and locked up for the time being. But how did she end up like this all of a sudden? It can't be Dr. Shun." Shun Julia took a deep breath and said, "Give me some water." Xiao Zhou pouted, but he had no choice but to obediently pour some water. Shun Julia continued, "She said that I looked like her ex-boyfriend and wanted me to compensate her for the loss of her youth. She even told me to die with her. I'm so handsome, so how could I die with her? What a waste." So, I resolutely resisted. She had a mental breakdown. After she smashed the cup, she stabbed me several times with the shards. Xiao Zhou was both angry and amused when he heard that. But when he looked at Shun Julia's hand, he couldn't bring himself to laugh. "You use your hand to block it?" "Of course, if I didn't use my hand to block it, I would have either gone blind or had my throat slit. In any case, I would have ended up worse than this." Xiao Zhou expressed his sympathy. A woman who has lost her mind isn't scary. The scariest thing is that this crazy woman is a Sanda fighter. "Thank you, Mr. Shun." "Well, where's the water?" "Coming." Yi Qianqian didn't sleep well that night. When the alarm clock rang the next day, she had only slept for a few hours. She got out of bed, washed up, and got ready to go to work. As soon as she got on the bus, she called Shun Julia. Shun Julia didn't seem to be fully awake. It rang a few times before the call was answered. "You're awake?" Shun Julia sounded sleepy. When Yi Qianqian heard the voice, she yawned as well. "Yeah, I'm on the bus heading to the office. What time is your flight?" "Ah, it's 12 o'clock at noon. I have to arrive early." "All right. Remember to drink some honey water or some hangover soup. Buy some plums before you board the plane. That way, you won't feel so uncomfortable." "Yes. All right, go to sleep. When will you be back?" "In a few days. I'll call you when I'm back." "Okay. Go to sleep." "Okay," Shun Julia replied in a low voice. Just as Yi Qianqian was about to hang up, Shun Julia suddenly said, "Qianqian." "Yes? I love you." Chapter 1746. The corners of her lips curled up, but she said, "Why do you have so much to say?" "I'm hanging up." After hanging up, Yi Qianqian's drowsiness was swept away. She looked at the traffic jam in front of her and instantly felt more pleasing to the eye. Perhaps this was the power of love. After hanging up, Shun Julia pressed the lock screen. The screensaver showed Yi Qianqian's beautiful and exquisite face. It made people feel relaxed and happy. The door to the ward opened, and Xiao Zhou walked in with a thermos. When he saw the smile on Shun Julia's face, he teased, Hey, 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 what are you looking at? You look so happy. Are you looking at sister-in-law?" Shun Julia put down his phone and wiped the smile off his face. He looked at Xiao Zhou and raised his eyebrows. "You're early? It's getting late. Everyone in the hospital is already at work. I specially checked in before coming over. Come, have some porridge. I haven't brushed my teeth yet. Come, help me up." Shun Julia's hand was hurting badly. He was alone in the ward, and even going to the bathroom was a little difficult. Now that someone was around, he naturally had to do his job properly. Xiao Zhou was on good terms with Shun Julia. When he saw Shun Julia like this, he sighed and said, "Why don't you come clean with sister-in-law? You can't go on like this. Your hand needs to be monitored. You can't be careless. It's fine. If she sees this, she'll despise me. Shenjilia sighed. His heart ached. From the beginning, he had been pestering Yi Qianqian. Yi Qianqian had never thought of marrying him. If she knew that he was in this state, how would she react? Xiao Zhou could tell that Shenjilia didn't seem to be joking. He laughed and said, "How could that be? Sister-in-law would feel bad for her own man. How can a woman not feel bad for him?" Shenjilia sat up with help. When he heard Xiao Zhou's words, he was silent for a moment before saying, "She's not the same. There's nothing different. Women are all like that, especially since you've lived with her for so long. Maybe she already sees you as her husband. Even if you're disabled, a woman can't despise you. You'd better ask sister-in-law to take care of you. I'm busy with work. I'm afraid that if something happens, I won't be able to take care of you. Go away. I'm a doctor after all. I know common sense. If you still can't do it, I'll press the nursing light. Go back to your work. I'll be fine." "That won't do. Why don't I go to your house and pack some clothes to change into? We still have to observe for a while. We can't just wear this, right? Go buy a few. Don't go back. Don't tell my woman." Little Zhou was speechless. He opened the kanji to cool and walked out. Fang Tongtong was alone in Yi Qianqian's house. She was bored. Shenjilia had been out on his own for several days. His days were getting more and more boring with each passing day, and Shenjilia didn't even come home. Why not just return to Cloud Town? Fang Tongtong packed her clothes and bought a suitcase. Then, she packed all her belongings together. She came empty-handed and returned with a load. When she was packing, she saw a business card on the table in the living room. A few days ago, when they were talking, Shenjilia had given her the business card of a single doctor. Fang Tongtong hadn't called him yet. When she looked at the white card, the corners of her lips slowly turned up. She picked up the landline in the living room and dialed the number. The call was quickly connected. Gu Yuansheng was at work. When he picked up his phone, he saw a notification, Director Shun's house. Chapter 1747. It must be sister-in-law, right? Gu Yuansheng glanced at the screen and felt a little uneasy. Why did his sister-in-law call him? I didn't do anything too serious, did I? After some thought, Gu Yuansheng picked up the phone and answered the call. "Hello." It was a very young voice. Fang Tongtong's eyes lit up when she heard it. "Hello, is this Dr. Gu Yuansheng?" Yes, sister-in-law." "Sister-in-law?" Fang Tongtong was stunned for a moment when he suddenly called her name. However, she quickly realized who he was referring to. "You've misunderstood. I'm not his girlfriend. I'm his girlfriend's best friend." Gu Yuansheng heaved a sigh of relief when he heard that and asked, "Then how did you get my number?" Fang Tongtong was a little embarrassed. She stammered for a while before she said, "I just wanted to get to know more people, so Old Shun gave me your name card." Gu Yuansheng nodded his head and didn't think too much about it. He asked, "Are you with sister-in-law now?" "Not yet. Qianqian went to work." "What's the matter?" "Well, since you called, I won't hide it from you. Something happened to Brother Shen recently. He lied when he said that he returned to the capital today. He was injured and didn't want sister-in-law to worry, so he didn't dare to tell the truth." Fang Tongtong was shocked when she heard that. "No way. Old Shun was injured? Is it serious?" "Sai, it's pretty serious. His arm was stabbed 4 times, and every stab was very deep. There were even glass shards inside. One of them even injured an artery. After a blood transfusion, he's much better now. However, such a serious injury can't go unattended." Old Shin didn't dare tell his girlfriend because he was afraid that she would be worried. "We were still wondering if we should hire a caregiver for him." "Hire a caregiver? Caregivers are extremely expensive." Fang Tongtong clicked her tongue and said, "There's no need to hire a caregiver. Mr. Gu, why don't you send me the address? I'll go take a look. If the injury is really serious, I'll tell Qianqian and ask her to take care of Old Shun." Gu Yuansheng was quiet for a moment before he said, "All right. He's at Kingstown Huxin Hospital. Call me when you're here, and I'll tell you in person." "All right, I'll go right away." "Oh yes. Why don't you prepare some clothes for Brother Shun? Brother Shun doesn't have any clothes in the hospital, and it's not convenient for me to look for sister-in-law." "All right, I'll tidy it up. Thank you." Gu Yuansheng heaved a sigh of relief. I should be the one thanking you. Old Zhou was still thinking of buying it after work. There's no need for that now. How should I address you? Room, the room of the house. Okay, see you later. Fong Tong hung up the phone. After she changed her clothes, she hurriedly hailed a cab and left. When they arrived at the hospital, it was already half an hour later. Fong Tong called Gu Yuansheng and walked into the inpatient department. The call was quickly answered. Where are you? I'm in the inpatient department. Hey, I think I saw you. Are you wearing a white dress with long black hair and carrying a black bag? Yes. Fong Tong looked around and finally saw a young man wearing glasses at the end of the corridor. He was quite tall, and his face was powdered and powdered. He looked gentle and refined, and was quite tall. Chapter 1748. He was a handsome young man. Gu Yuansheng saw Fong Tong and said, Hello, I'm Gu Yuansheng. Fong Tong quickly reacted and nodded. Oh, hello, I'm Fong Tong. Gu Yuansheng smiled. He looked at the black bag in her hand and said, Is this Brother Shen's clothes? Give them to me. Yeah, I just took them. I don't know what he usually wears. I'm just staying at his house temporarily. Fong Tong handed it over. It's okay. It's fine as long as you have them. Come with me. Gu Yuansheng brought Fong Tong to Shun Jilia's ward. Shun Jilia was on a 4-drip. He sat on the bed and stared at his phone with a pale face. When he heard the door open, Shun Jilia looked up. When he saw Fong Tong, his heart almost jumped out of his chest. Why are you here? Shun Jilia exclaimed in surprise. He quickly got up. However, just as he stood up, he sucked in a breath of cold air. Fong Tong did not expect to see Shun Jilia like this. She was shocked. When she saw Shun Jilia's abnormally pale face, she was a little frightened. Fong Tong shifted her gaze to Shun Jilia's arm. His arm was wrapped tightly, and blood was still seeping out. It was obvious that the injury was serious. How did you end up like this? Fong Tong exclaimed. This is too tragic. If Qian saw this, she would be heartbroken. No, I have to call Qian. Your condition is too frightening. As she spoke, Fong Tong had already picked up her phone. She found Qian's number and was about to call. Shun Jilia was shocked and said, No, Dr. Gu, quickly hold her down. You can't call my woman. Gu Yuansheng did not expect the lady to be so direct. She immediately picked up the phone. When he saw Shun Jilia's nervous expression, he quickly took the phone from Fong Tong's hand and said, Miss Fong, please don't do this. Brother Shin doesn't want sister-in-law to know. That's why I chose to tell you. If you do this, won't I become a sinner? Gu Yuansheng pleaded, Miss Fong, please don't be rash. Fong Tong's phone was being held. She frowned when she saw Shun Jilia's situation. Qian will be worried. Qian doesn't know about my injury, right? You didn't tell her, did you? Shun Jilia stood up. The wound on his arm was throbbing in pain. I didn't tell her, but you have no choice but to tell her about your condition. Fong Tong felt that it was inappropriate. His arm was already in such a state. Shouldn't someone take care of him? No. I told her that I went to the capital. If I tell her now that I was lying to her, won't she hate me to death? But if I don't say it, Qian will definitely hate me. You're different. You're her best friend, and she values you very much. No matter what, she wouldn't break up with you, would she? Shun Jilia asked. Fong Tong was speechless. Are you afraid that she'll break up with you? Shun Jilia was silent. Don't worry. It's impossible. Although Qian doesn't say it, she likes you very much. She loves you to death. It's impossible for her to break up with you. Chapter 1749. As soon as Gu Yuansheng heard that, he knew that Shun Jilia had come to settle scores with him. She subconsciously took a step back, coughed lightly, and said, Brother Shun, I'm doing this for your own good. Look, I even asked this girl to pack some clothes for you. As he spoke, he tugged at the bag. The clothes inside quickly fell to the ground and fell into a pile. Fong Tong was a little embarrassed. I took everything from my suitcase. Last night, Qian prepared a few pieces of clothing for you and placed them in a small suitcase. I opened it up and took the clothes over, but I was in a hurry, so I casually scooped them up. Actually, I didn't know what was inside. Did Qian prepare this for me? Shenjilia stared at the pile of clothes and felt a little happy. Well, didn't you say you were going back to the capital today? She packed it for you and waited for you to go home to get it. Gu Yuanxing's face was full of envy, jealousy, and hatred. Brother Shun, you're so lucky. You didn't even let sister-in-law know about this. Sigh, if sister-in-law knew, she would be so distressed. When Shun Jilia heard this, he felt a little smug. From the looks of it, Yi Qianqian's heart wasn't without him. Even though he didn't go back last night, she still knew to prepare clothes for him. However, if Yi Qianqian found out that he was lying to her, Shun Jilia sighed softly and said, "Let's wait for a few more days. We'll tell her when she's almost recovered. She's been very busy lately, and she hasn't been to work for a few days. We can't let her keep taking days off and running around." Most importantly, he didn't want her to worry. She looked at Fong Tong Tong and said, "You should go back first. Don't tell her about this. Just pretend that you don't know anything about it." Fong Tong Tong furrowed her brows and said, "How can I do that? If I know, I know. If I don't know, I don't know. If you want me to not tell Qian, that's fine too. Qian is more sensitive. If she finds out, she'll definitely be upset." Yes, Shun Julia understood Yi Qian, but Fong Tong Tong understood her even better. Although Yi Qian appeared carefree, she was more meticulous than most people. "Why don't you return to Cloud Town directly? That way you won't have to hide it from Qian and go against your conscience." When Fong Tong Tong heard that, she felt even more annoyed and said, "Are you saying that you want me to leave you here to fend for yourself? I have a bunch of colleagues here, and this is my territory. What do you mean by self-destruction?" Shun Jilia found it a little funny. "That's enough. It's none of your business. Go back." "No, Qian has been busy recently, and I just thought that you went back to the capital. I have nothing to do all day, and I know how you are now. Let me take care of you. Anyway, you have colleagues to do the hard work. I'll just buy you food and bring you water." "I think it's fine." Gu Yuansheng immediately replied, "Anyway, Brother Shun, you can only lie down now. Let Xiaofang accompany you to talk." "How good would that be?" "Go to hell. No, men and women shouldn't touch each other. After all, I'm a single girl. What's the point of taking care of a man?" "No, why are you so pretentious? The girl doesn't even mind." Gu Yuanxing said, "Don't you think so, Xiaofang?" Chapter 1750. Gu Yuansheng clapped his hands. "Good. Well said. It's settled then. Brother Shun, I'm leaving. Little Fong, call me if you need anything. I'm ready to answer the phone anytime." "Okay, go ahead." Fong Tong Tong smiled. Soon, Gu Yuansheng felt relieved, turned around, and walked out. Shun Jilia felt it was inappropriate. "You should go back. It's not appropriate for a man and a woman to be alone. Why are you so talkative? Can you move by yourself? Why don't I call Qian over?" The second half of the sentence hit Shun Jilia's soft spot. Shun Jilia pursed his lips and didn't say anything. From that day on, Fong Tong Tong was busy running up and down the hospital. When Yi Qian went to work during the day, Fong Tong Tong ran to the hospital. Fong Tong Tong took care of ordering takeout, buying nutritious meals, changing medicine, pouring water, and other miscellaneous chores. If Shun Jilia needed to go to the bathroom, he would call for his buddies to help him. Fong Tong Tong slowly returned home in the evening. This went on for 3 to 4 days in a row. It was the weekend. It was rare that Yi Qian didn't sleep in on the weekend. She picked up her phone and scrolled through Weibo. She couldn't bear to read anything else. She closed the page and opened her contact list. Ever since Shun Jilia returned to the capital, she had called Shun Jilia more than 20 times. Each call lasted no more than 10 minutes. More importantly, Yi Qian had been the one to make all the calls in the past 10 minutes. Shun Jilia hadn't taken the initiative to call her in the past few days. The more Yi Qian thought about it, the more she felt that something was wrong. She sent a text message. Yi Qian asked, "Are you awake?" There was no reply. She looked at the time. It was 8:30 in the morning. According to Shun Jilia's normal biological clock, he should be awake by now. Yi Qian wanted to call him, but she immediately regretted her decision before the call could go through. Yi Qianqian hung up the phone and walked out in frustration. At that moment, Fang Tong Tong walked out of the bathroom. She had changed into clothes that were suitable for going out instead of her normal pajamas. Yi Qianqian was a little surprised. "Who are you going out with?" Huh. Fang Tong Tong was a little embarrassed. "I'm going to meet a classmate. I haven't seen him in a long time." "Classmate? Who? You don't know him." "I don't know them." Yi Qianqian found it strange. "Stop fooling around. Are there any classmates you know that I don't know?" "Aha, that's right. Didn't you choose fewer elective courses in university? That's when I met her. You've never seen her before." Yi Qianqian found it even stranger. "I wanted to go to the movies with you." "Is the classmate you're talking about a guy or a girl? Don't tell me you're in love." "Of course not." "Sigh, it's not that easy to fall in love." "Sigh, I'm going out." Fang Tong Tong looked a little defeated. "You should continue to catch up on sleep. You've been working overtime for so many days. Get some rest. When are you coming back?" "How about tonight?" "Oh, you've been coming home very late recently, and you've been spending time with your classmate? You leave early and return late, and you won't even let me see you. How dare you say that you're not dating?" Yi Qianqian's eyes were mischievous. "Tell me, who is the other party?" "Bah, don't think too much about it. Hurry up and call your man." "Mua." Fang Tong Tong put on her shoes and quickly ran off. Chapter 1751. The Ways of the World. Yi Qianqian slumped on the sofa, out of boredom. She picked up her phone and clicked on the chat box with Shunjilia. Shunjilia's status on her WeChat was pinned at the top. His profile picture was of him wearing a white coat, and he looked like a proper person. She hadn't seen that face for days. She flipped through their chat history. Suddenly, her phone vibrated, and a new message came in. It was from WeChat. It was from Shunjilia. Shunjilia's message was a little strange. It was a few words. "Have you seen the stars?" Yi Qianqian blinked her eyes in confusion. "Sisai, colon?" "Shunjilia." "Sisai, yes, I have." "Shunjilia, have you seen a 5-pointed star?" "Sisai." Picture, Yi Qianqian drew a 5-pointed star and sent it over with a cheeky emoticon. "Shunjilia, have you seen a 4-pointed star?" "Sisai, are there stars with 4 corners?" "Shunjilia, I miss you." At the same time that the message was sent, many 4-pointed stars fell from WeChat, glittering with golden light. Yi Qianqian's heart warmed when she saw it, and she chuckled. She opened the video call and made the call. However, Shunjilia immediately rejected the call as soon as it was made. Shunjilia's reply came immediately. "It's not convenient. The elders are talking." "Sisai, your elders are talking, and you have the nerve to be daydreaming in front of them. Are you tired of living?" "Shunjilia, it doesn't matter. As long as you don't do it openly. I'm handsome, so I have special privileges." "Sisai, are you shameless?" "Shunjilia, haha." "Sisai, when are you coming back?" "Sisai, I miss you too." "Sisai, Tong Tong might be going back in a few days. Come back soon." Shunjilia's heart warmed when he saw Yi Qianqian's words. She said that she missed him too. God knew how rare it was to hear such words from Yi Qianqian's mouth. However, looking at the water still dripping from his hand, he said, "I'm afraid it'll take a few more days. I won't be back so soon." Yi Qianqian was disappointed and asked, "Call me when you're ready." As soon as the message was sent, Shunjilia's call came in. Yi Qianqian was pleasantly surprised. "Hello. You woke up so early?" Shunjilia's voice sounded lazy and low. It was obvious that he had just woken up. When she heard the voice, Yi Qianqian felt a rush of heat in her heart. She became restless. Aren't you the elder talking? I said I had a stomachache, so I ran out." Shunjilia said this calmly. "Life has been tough lately. I've been under pressure every day." "Sigh, okay, then I'll talk to old Shun." "Thank you, comrade Little Goo." A loud female voice, a classic and familiar loud voice. Shunjilia's heart skipped a beat. He was caught off guard when the door to the ward was opened. His beloved Fang Tong Tong's voice was especially jarring. Shunjilia subconsciously plugged his phone's microphone, but the moment he did so, Fang Tong Tong's voice was cut off again. Fang Tong Tong walked in with 2 sets of breakfast in her hands. Her eyes were fixed on Shunjilia. When she saw the phone in Shun Jilie's hand, she was immediately shocked. She stammered, "You're on the phone?" Chapter 1752. Yi Qianqian's curious voice drifted over. Shun Jilie's heart was in his throat. He quickly replied, "How is that possible? I'm in the capital. By the way, what has Tong Tong been up to recently?" Yi Qianqian smiled. "Yes, how could that be possible?" Shun Jilie was in the capital, and Fong Tong Tong was still in Kingstown. When she heard that, Yi Qianqian tucked her hair behind her ear. She couldn't hide the smile on her lips as she said, "She seems to be in a relationship recently. She's always happy when she goes out every day. When she comes back, she's already had her meal. I've been eating alone recently. Fortunately, this longtime bachelor is finally going to get rid of her single status." Sigh. I can finally breathe a sigh of relief. As Shun Jilie listened, his eyes fell on Fong Tong Tong. The more he listened, the more guilty he felt. If Yi Qianqian found out that Fong Tong Tong had nothing to do in the hospital recently, what would she think? Shun Jilie suddenly regretted it. Yi Qianqian stayed with Fong Tong Tong every day. They ate and lived together. It was hard to guarantee that Fong Tong Tong wouldn't give herself away. Although there was nothing between them, Yi Qianqian's tone made it clear that Fong Tong Tong had been in a relationship recently. If Yi Qianqian found out that Fong Tong Tong's boyfriend was actually Shun Jilie, wouldn't that be bad? "What are you doing?" Yi Qianqian asked when she saw that Shun Jilie was not speaking. Shun Jilie immediately snapped back to reality. He laughed and said, "Nothing. My grandmother was talking to me just now. Remember to eat on time when I'm not around. Have you been busy at work recently?" "Yeah, I've been crazy busy. There's a lot of things that have been backlogged, and I have to deal with all of them. Yesterday was Friday, and I worked overtime until 10 o'clock at night. Fortunately, Tong Tong had already had her meal when she came back. Otherwise, my heart would be filled with guilt." "You?" Shun Jilie felt his heartache. Yi Qianqian's mouth was sometimes unforgiving, but Shun Jilie knew that she was just a tough mouth. Deep down, she was kinder than anyone else. She had this kind of attractive quality, which was why he was so attracted to her. Shun Jilie's heart softened, and he took a deep breath. "Don't tire yourself out. If you're too busy with work, you can ask Lily to help you. Anyway, Lily is waiting at home to give birth. She's bored all day." "That won't do. She's pregnant. If Oming finds out, I'll be hacked to death." Shun Jilie chuckled. He glanced at Fong Tong Tong, who was rooted to the spot, and said, "That's true. I'll tell you later. I'll be busy for a while." "All right." Yi Qianqian reluctantly hung up the phone. Yi Qianqian hugged the large doll on the sofa and rolled over. Her heart fell as if it had been pricked by a rusty hook. It was itchy and painful. Busy, busy, busy. Busy in Kingstown, busy back in the capital. Yi Qianqian bit the nose of the big puppy. "Are you so busy that you don't even have time to talk to me? You bastard." However, she would soon be able to see him again. The corners of Yi Qianqian's lips curled up. She turned around and picked up her phone. Fong Tong Tong put down the breakfast and carefully walked over. "Did I speak too loudly just now?" he asked with some uncertainty and apprehension on his face. Chapter 1753. When Fong Tong Tong saw Shun Jilie's expression, she immediately knew what was going on. He immediately closed his eyes, put his palms together in front of his eyes, and said sincerely, I'm sorry, old Shun. I really didn't mean it. I didn't know you were on the phone. The person who called just now was Qianqian, right?" Shun Jilie's expression darkened, but he didn't answer her directly. He said, "It's better if you don't come here anymore. My condition is much better now. I'll be discharged in a few days. I don't need your care anymore." Fong Tong Tong's heart skipped a beat. "How can we do that? No way." Shun Jilie frowned when he heard that. "I can get up on my own now. I can even eat and go to the bathroom. I don't need anyone to take care of me anymore." Fong Tong Tong also realized that she might have overreacted. After a moment of silence, she said, "You might think that your condition is much better, but Xiao Gu just told me that your wound is still healing. It could reopen at any time. If it bleeds and becomes inflamed, it'll be very troublesome." Yi Qianqian looked at Fong Tongtong. Gu Yuanxing told you? Fong Tongtong nodded. Then tell Gu Yuanxing to come in and tell me. Fong Tongtong's expression darkened. Don't you trust me? I came here to take care of you for the past few days because you didn't want Qianqian to know, so I didn't dare to tell her about you. Every day when I'm with her, I'm afraid that I won't be able to stop myself from telling her. Do you know how tormented I am? Fong Tongtong's words were direct and carried an indescribable sense of grievance. Shen Jilia pursed his lips and remained silent. I'm Qianqian's best friend. Recently, Qianqian has been as busy as a spinning top. She gets off work very late every day. However, it's the weekend these 2 days, and you can't leave someone to take care of you. I think I'd better talk to her about it. As she spoke, Fong Tongtong had already picked up her phone and looked like she was about to make a call. Shen Jilia's expression darkened. Are you threatening me? How is this a threat? It's only right for your girlfriend to take care of you, but Qianqian has been so busy lately, and you're afraid that she'll tire herself out. As Qianqian's best friend, I have no choice but to help. Because of your request, I'm stuck in the middle, and now I'm being chased away by you. What the F*** CK? As Fong Tongtong spoke, her eyes reddened. Turning around, he said, Forget it. It's a weekend anyway. Go and call her over yourself. These words, Shun Jilia felt a headache coming on. He raised his hand and shouted, Wait a minute. Why are you looking for Qianqian now? I already told her that I'm in the capital. Aren't you trying to slap me in the face? Then what should I do? You won't let me stay here, and you can't be alone here. If you get infected by yourself, it'll be fatal. Do you want me to watch my best friend's boyfriend die in front of me? Shun Jilia was speechless. He could only feel the pain from the wound on his arm. Forget it. I'm hungry. What did you buy? Fong Tongtong's back was facing Shun Jilia, and the corners of her lips curled up. But he quickly restrained himself, turned around, and opened the lunchbox he had just bought, and said, Light porridge. Shun Jilia had asked Gu Yuanxing about it, and it was indeed Gu Yuanxing who had said that. This was because the possibility of infection had been greatly reduced. Now, the probability had become very, very small, but they still had to be prepared. Chapter 1754. However, time seemed to be crawling at a snail's pace. On Sunday, Yi Qianqian slept the entire day at home. When she woke up, it was already evening. The dim light in the surroundings made everything look like it was covered with a layer of gray veil. The lights in the house weren't turned on, and Fong Tongtong hadn't returned yet. Yi Qianqian looked at everything in front of her, and waves of emptiness assaulted her heart. Inexplicably, she felt as if she had been abandoned by the entire world. Loneliness, solitude, her heart ached. Yi Qianqian reached for her phone and looked at the time. It was 7 o'clock in the evening. Yi Qianqian tapped on her contact list and immediately dialed the number that she was extremely familiar with. The call was quickly picked up. There was a burst of noise before Shun Jilia's voice could be heard. Shun Jilia coughed heavily before asking, What's wrong? Yi Qianqian's heart felt empty, and she felt extremely uncomfortable. She stood up and turned on the lights. It was a little blinding, but at least the feeling of emptiness had faded a lot. I just woke up and dreamed of you. Yi Qianqian sat on the bed and narrowed her eyes. Guess what I dreamed of? Well, if you can dream of me, it's definitely not an empty dream. It's probably that your mind was filled with my handsome face, and you couldn't walk because of my handsomeness? Shun Jilia made a soft sound. Brother Shun, can you be a little more shameless? When Yi Qianqian heard the sound, she laughed out loud. Look, even your colleagues are saying that you're shameless. Can't you speak properly? Well, let me guess. You dreamed that we got married? Then we gave birth to an adorable daughter? Then we held our daughter's hand together, and the family of 3 happily went to school. During the day, we went to school and went to work separately. At night, we went home together and dreamed together. Yi Qianqian's heart warmed, but she still retorted, That's called daydreaming. I really did have that kind of dream. After Shun Jilia said that, he immediately realized what was going on. What did you dream of just now? I dreamed that we broke up. Then you went around crying, telling everyone that I had dumped you and that I was fooling around outside. I went around saying that it wasn't me. It wasn't me. As Yi Qianqian spoke, she chuckled. But you kept slandering me. You said that I cheated on you and that I had another man outside. Then, my reputation was ruined. Everyone was spitting on me. Then I woke up in shock. Shun Julia was silent for a moment before he said, That's what you call daydreaming. You can't even dream about breaking up with me. I'll go. Yi Qianqian felt much more at ease after hearing his words. Her stomach growled, and she immediately said, I'm hungry. I'm going to eat. Bye. Hello. Shun Julia wanted to say something else, but Yi Qianqian had already hung up. Yi Qianqian's lips curled up in a good mood. She tossed her phone aside and went outside to cook some noodles for herself. However, he immediately regained his senses. Just now, who was the person on the other end of the line? Only his colleagues would address him as Brother Shun. That was why she said it was his colleague. But wasn't Shun Julia supposed to be at home in the capital? Why didn't Shun Julia refute her? Before Yi Qianqian could figure out, the door opened. Fang Tongtong walked in with a tired expression. When she saw Yi Qianqian, she greeted her and said, Hi. Yeah, I'm cooking noodles. Have you eaten? I have. Chapter 1755. There was a hint of ambiguity in Yi Qianqian's words. When Fang Tongtong saw it, she felt a little guilty. She averted her eyes, not daring to meet Yi Qianqian's eyes. She said bashfully, What little boyfriend? There's nothing like that. Nothing? Yi Qianqian leaned over. Why are you blushing if there's nothing like that? Wow, Fang Tongtong actually knows how to be shy. Quick, tell me, what kind of person is that man? Is he handsome? Fang Tongtong felt even more uneasy. She turned her head away and said, Don't overthink it. He's not a man. Huh. If he's not a man, you leave early and return late. Every day? Yi Qianqian clearly did not believe her. TSK. When Fang Tongtong saw Yi Qianqian skillfully cooking noodles, the guilt in her heart lessened a little. But I really didn't expect that you would get into a relationship so soon after coming to Kingstown. You'll have to come to Kingstown more often in the future. Yi Qianqian extinguished the fire and sat down on the sofa with the noodles. Fang Tongtong looked at her. Her heart was beating a little fast. She sat down in front of Yi Qianqian and said, Actually, I'm not going on a date recently. He was injured, so I went to the hospital to take care of him. Injured? What happened? It was a work injury. I'm not too sure about the details, but the injury was pretty serious. He had to get 12 stitches on his arm, and his artery was injured. He's still in the hospital after a blood transfusion. Yi Qianqian gasped. That can't be. Is his hand all right? It's fine. Fortunately, it didn't hurt his nerves. As long as he recuperates, his hand will be fine. Fang Tongtong looked at Yi Qianqian and smiled. He's much better now. That's good. That's good. But what kind of job is this? It's too dangerous. His hand was perfectly fine, and it ended up like this. His life might be in danger in the future. Yi Qianqian was frightened when she heard that. You have to make a good choice when it comes to marriage. Tell him to quit when he's better. Fang Tongtong laughed. It's just an exception. It's not as dangerous as it is every day. This job is still very stable. What do you do? Doctor, haven't the doctor-patient relationship been a little tense lately? I can't help it even if I bump into them occasionally. Fang Tongtong shrugged. Doctor? What a coincidence. Ha! Old Shun is also a doctor, but he's a psychiatrist. He's nothing compared to those doctors who can save lives with a knife. Bring me to meet him if there's a chance. Yi Qianqian was surprised. Yeah, Fang Tongtong felt a little guilty and lowered her head. I'll bring him home when he's better. Great, what does he look like? He looks good when he smiles. His teeth are very neat, and he loves to smile. He's also very tall and has fair skin, but he's very masculine. He likes to work out, and he's healthy, sunny, and handsome. Fang Tongtong's face was filled with fascination when she talked about this person. Yi Qianqian looked at her with a mischievous glint in her eyes. It looks like you've really fallen for him this time. A man that you like must be very outstanding, right? Of course, he is very, very outstanding. I like him very, very much. Ah, does she like you? Of course. Fang Tongtong's face heated up. Otherwise, it's just that I'm too busy shaving my head. It's boring. Yi Qianqian patted her on the shoulder and said, "That's good. Get along well. When you get married, I'll be your bridesmaid." Chapter 1756. Yi Qianqian suddenly remembered something and quickly looked down. "Oh, my noodles!" As soon as she looked down, Yi Qianqian felt that the person she was describing was very similar to Shun Jilye. Loved to smile and looked good when he smiled. Loved to work out and was sunny. Every single description matched perfectly with Shun Jilye's. However, Yi Qianqian was immediately amused by her own thoughts. It was just a coincidence. Yi Qianqian picked up the noodles with her chopsticks and took a big bite. Fong Tong Tong stared at Yi Qianqian eating the noodles. She felt nervous and excited. It felt as if she was doing something bad. However, Fong Tong Tong was addicted to the feeling and couldn't extricate herself. Excited, after finishing her noodles, Yi Qianqian sat on the sofa and played with her phone. All she could think about was what Fong Tong Tong had just said about her little boyfriend. They were both doctors, and they looked the same. It was just a work-related injury. In the past, no matter how busy Shinjilya was, he would always report to her. However, Shinjilya suddenly told her that he was going to the capital and didn't even come back to pack his clothes. Wasn't a little rushed? Shinjilya. After dying several times in the boring puzzle game, Yi Qianqian closed the page and stared at the coffee table in a daze. Once she thought about it, Yi Qianqian couldn't stop. Some things simply couldn't stand up to any scrutiny. Once one seriously analyzed it, everything that was supposed to be logical became wrong. Yi Qianqian picked up her phone and thought about it. She decided to call Shun Jilye. The call was quickly connected. Shun Jilye seemed to be watching television. She could hear the sound of the television. Yi Qianqian asked, "What are you doing?" "Nothing. I'm just bored." "Well," Yi Qianqian's heart beat faster. "Do you have nothing to do at home in the capital?" "Yeah, I'm bored, but my grandmother won't let me go back to Kingstown. She wants me to stay for a few more days. Why don't I go to the capital to look for you? Haven't you always wanted me to meet your parents and your grandmother? I think I'm ready." Yi Qianqian's heart beat faster. She held her breath nervously. She thought that Shun Jilye would happily agree to it. Surprisingly, Shun Jilye didn't respond immediately. Instead, he paused for a moment before saying, "Recently, I've been quite busy at home. My brother's matter has caused a huge commotion at home. It's not appropriate for you to come at this time." Yi Qianqian was a little disappointed. She felt that something was amiss and asked, "Is Shun Manting back?" Shun Jilye paused for a moment. "Yeah, she's pregnant. Yes. It just so happens that I haven't seen Shun Manting in a long time. I'll go and see her." Shun Jilye was even more flustered. He tightened his grip on his phone and thought for a moment before replying, "Anything is fine." But Manting's mood hasn't been stable lately, and the house is a little chaotic. I might not be able to entertain you when you're here. Grandma and Mom and Dad have been quite vexed lately. This meant that he didn't want her to go. Yi Qianqian was disappointed. "All right, next time then." After talking about some trivial matters, Yi Qianqian grew bored. She hung up the phone and leaned back on the sofa. It shouldn't be like this. Shun Jilye should have overcome all obstacles and welcomed her no matter what. Chapter 1757. It was a sleepless night. Perhaps it was because she had slept too much during the day, or perhaps it was because of the increasingly strange thoughts in her heart, but she couldn't fall asleep no matter how hard she tossed and turned. The next day, Fong Tong Tong still woke up early. When Yi Qianqian saw her putting on her shoes in the entryway, she asked, "Did you go out?" "Yeah." Fong Tong Tong seemed to be in a good mood as she hummed a tune. When Yi Qianqian saw Fong Tong Tong's expression, she casually asked, "Which hospital does your boyfriend work at?" Fong Tong Tong was taken aback. She suddenly felt guilty and laughed. "At a not-so-big hospital. Private enterprise?" "Not really. What's your name?" Fong Tong Tong didn't know what to say. She couldn't possibly say that it was Huxin Hospital, could she? He suddenly remembered the name of a hospital that he had inadvertently memorized last time, and said, "Fong Chi Hospital." Damn, that hospital is a Class 3 Grade A hospital. How can it be a small hospital? Fong Tong Tong felt a little awkward. She laughed dryly and said, I don't really understand either. I'll be leaving first. Wait for me. I'm ready too. I have to go to work. Let's go together. After Yi Qian was done drying the clothes, she went to her room to retrieve her bag. She put on her shoes and walked toward Fong Tong Tong. Fong Tong Tong looked at the time with an indecipherable expression on her face. Let's go. The two of them got off the elevator. There was a bus stop at the entrance of the neighborhood. Yi Qian walked toward the bus stop and waved at Fong Tong Tong. I'm going to work. Fong Tong Tong nodded and waved her hand as she hailed taxi. Fanchi Hospital was on the opposite side of the bus stop. It was not far from here. It would only take about 10 minutes to walk there. When Yi Qian looked at the taxi, she realized that it had originally been moving in the same direction, but it had deliberately turned around and headed in the opposite direction. Yi Qian frowned when she saw that. Fong Tong Tong was lying to her. The doubts that had tormented her for the whole night were magnified at this moment. Yi Qian saw an empty car driving over from afar. She stopped it and pointed at the car that Fong Tong Tong was in and said, "Follow that car." The chauffeur gave Yi Qian a strange look, but didn't ask any questions. He quickly drove off. There were many cars coming and going during the rush hour. Yi Qian sent a message to her supervisor to ask for a leave of absence. After a lot of negotiation, she was finally granted her leave. Fong Tong Tong's car drove further and further away. About 20 minutes later, she finally stopped. Huxin Hospital. When Yi Qian stopped, the sense of crisis that had been lurking in her heart suddenly rose. But it was quickly suppressed. No, it was just a coincidence. Yi Qian refused to believe her. She paid a taxi fare and followed Fong Tong Tong's footsteps. Fong Tong Tong bought breakfast at the entrance of the hospital. From the looks of it, she seemed to be very familiar with the people in the hospital. She greeted quite a few people along the way. "Xiao Fong, you're here again. Brother Shun is probably still sleeping. You're so early every day. Brother Shun is so lucky." Yi Qian's heart felt like it was being squeezed by a large hand. It was so heavy that she couldn't breathe. Brother Shun, who else could it be but Shun Jilya? Her originally unshakable trust in Shun Jilya was suddenly lifted up in front of her. It was as if he was asking her, "Do you still believe in him?" Fong Tong Tong walked all the way to a ward. Yi Qian followed her and dodged around. Fortunately, there were many people around, so it wasn't obvious what her motive was. Chapter 1758. His familiarity with the ward did not show any awareness of entering someone else's boyfriend's ward. Fong Tong Tong quickly closed the door. Yi Qian leaned against the door and picked up her phone. After turning his phone to silent mode, he sent a WeChat message to Shun Jilya. "Are you awake?" The phone inside rang. It was Shun Jilya. The last sliver of hope that Yi Qian was holding onto shattered inch by inch. His originally enthusiastic heart also cooled down inch by inch. "You're eating this again? Can't you come up with something new?" Shun Jilya's voice was filled with disdain. Yi Qian's heart felt as if it had been struck by something. The originally bright and clean mirror instantly cracked. Her phone vibrated. It was a reply from Shun Jilya. "Shun Jilya, I've been woken up by my own handsomeness." Yi Qian gripped her phone tightly. Her throat hurt. Yi Qian deliberately searched for the airport's address and sent it over. "Sisai, pick me up in the afternoon. I'm coming for you." Shun Jilya was inside, and when he saw the news, his body trembled. "What's wrong?" Fong Tong Tong asked. "Qian wants to go to the capital to look for me." Shun Jilya felt a headache coming on. "Gosh, how am I supposed to play this game?" "Sisai, I have a surprise for you, ha ha ha. Aren't you in the capital?" Shun Jilya, "Of course I'm in the capital. It's just that I'm overwhelmed with work at home. It's best if you don't come." "Sisai, you were the one who told me to meet your parents, and now you're telling me not to go. Are you crazy?" "Sisai, do you not want me to see your parents anymore? Have you changed your mind? Falling in love with someone else?" "Shun Jilya, how is that possible? I'll have to meet my parents sooner or later, but now isn't the right time." "Sisai, then tell me clearly. Is it you who won't let me go, Or is it your grandma's parents who won't let me go? Shun Julia. It's me. I don't think the timing is right. Sisai. Why is the timing not right? Shun Julia. Busy at home. Sisai. I want to hear the truth. Shun Julia. I'm really busy. Yi Qianqian's heart sank when she read his words. Clutching his phone, he felt as if his heart was being pricked by needles. Shun Julia looked at his phone and realized that Yi Qianqian wasn't replying to him anymore. After some thought, Shun Julia called Yi Qianqian. Yi Qianqian looked at the phone and refused to answer it. Shun Julia panicked and made another call. Yi Qianqian composed herself and took a deep breath before answering the call. Shun Julia was delighted and quickly called out, "Hey, Qianqian." "Yes. Where are you now? I came to find you." I've been busy lately, so..." "Is that so?" Yi Qianqian no longer lowered her voice. He turned to the side and pushed the door open. Fong Tong Tong sat on a stool by the bed and was preparing breakfast. Shun Julia leaned against the headboard and was on the phone. When Fong Tong Tong and Shun Julia saw Yi Qianqian standing at the door, they were both shocked. When Yi Qianqian saw the scene, she found it even more hilarious. Her best friend and her boyfriend, the man she thought she could entrust the rest of her life to. "I really, really like him." "Does she like you?" "Of course. Otherwise, it's just that I'm hot-headed. It's boring." So, they were really together, right? Chapter 1759. Shun Julia couldn't react at all. He stared at Yi Qianqian for a moment before he mumbled, "Qianqian." Yi Qianqian opened the door wider and walked forward. Fong Tong Tong looked at Yi Qianqian. She wanted to say something, but when she opened her mouth, no words came out. Awkward, especially when she thought about what she said to Yi Qianqian the night before. Fong Tong Tong felt that her current posture was a little ugly. Best friend. Boyfriend. Best friend's boyfriend. Since everyone is here, there are some things that we should all be clear about. Yi Qianqian's lips were slightly curved, but her uneven breathing clearly revealed her feelings at that moment. She wasn't as calm as she appeared to be. Shun Julia's heart skipped a beat. He immediately stood up and walked forward. But before he could say anything, he saw Yi Qianqian walk forward. Yi Qianqian's cheeks, which were usually gentle and playful, were abnormally red. Yi Qianqian gritted her teeth and walked forward. She raised her hand and slapped it hard. Slap! The loud sound of the slap was especially loud in the quiet ward. Shun Julia was stunned by the slap. He felt a burning sensation on his cheek, and Yi Qianqian's expression was almost contorted, but she still tried her best to maintain a calm expression. Yi Qianqian was furious. Fong Tong Tong exclaimed in surprise. She immediately stood up and explained, "Qianqian, you've misunderstood. I don't have the kind of relationship you think I have with him." In Yi Qianqian's ears, Fong Tong Tong's words sounded more like a proud boast. "Huh?" Yi Qianqian looked at Fong Tong Tong. Her voice was so cold that even she found it strange. "Is this the doctor boyfriend you were talking about? Mutual affection?" Fong Tong Tong felt as if she had bitten her tongue. She wanted to say something, but she couldn't say a word. Yes, she was the one who said it. She was the one who said all the words. "Qianqian." Shun Julia held Yi Qianqian's hand uneasily. "I let go." Yi Qianqian was on the verge of breaking down. Her voice was already choking. "Shun Julia, what do you take me for?" Shun Julia panicked. He grabbed her hand and squeezed it tightly. "I just don't want you to worry, get lost. Let go of Shun Julia. We're done for." Yi Qianqian flung his hand off forcefully and bellowed, "Go to hell with the capital. Go to hell with your work." "Qianqian." Fong Tong Tong panicked as well. She had grown up with Yi Qianqian and had never seen Yi Qianqian in such a state. "I'm sorry, Qianqian. F***CKU. I'm sorry, B***TCH. Yi Qianqian retreated and suddenly laughed. "Do you like to steal from others? Fine, I'll give it to you. I don't care for such a piece of SH**T. Fong Tong Tong's breathing quickened. She found it hard to believe that Yi Qianqian would have such a side to her. Her hysterical words fell into Shun Julia's ears. It was as if Yi Qianqian had taken a hoe and was viciously digging into his heart. Yi Qianqian. Shun Jilia wanted to chase after her, but Yi Qianqian retreated as if she had seen a wild beast. Yi Qianqian's flushed face was filled with disdain. She turned around abruptly and broke into a run. Shun Jilia panicked. The moment Yi Qianqian turned around, he immediately chased after her. He reached out to grab her arm and shouted, Qianqian, Qianqian, it's not what you think it is. A few days ago. Chapter 1760. Everyone turned to look at her. Shun Jilia was holding her hand. It was his right hand. It was his right arm that had received 12 stitches. Yi Qianqian didn't hold back. Shun Jilia grunted, but he didn't loosen his grip on her arm. I told you about the female patient a few days ago. Do you remember her? It's her, let go. Yi Qianqian calmed down, but her voice was as cold as ice. Shun Jilia panicked even more. When he saw Yi Qianqian like this, the words that were on the tip of his tongue were stuck in his throat like a fishbone. He couldn't get them out. Qianqian, I told you to let go. Are you deaf? Yi Qianqian screamed hysterically. More and more people gathered to watch. Lao Zhou was attracted by the noise. He squeezed into the crowd and saw Yi Qianqian holding Shun Jilia. When he saw the blood on Shun Jilia's arm, he was even more shocked. He ran forward and asked, Brother Shun, what happened? As he shouted, he rushed forward and grabbed Shun Jilia's hand. Oh my God, do you want to die? Let go. If you don't let go, your hand will be crippled. Shun Jilia's eyes were fixed on Yi Qianqian. Qianqian, I didn't mean to lie to you. I just didn't want you to worry. Let go. This is the last time. Although Yi Qianqian's face was red, her eyes were extremely calm. She looked at Shun Jilia coldly. I heard that if you bite your tongue into an artery, you'll die. Her voice was as cold as ice. She looked at Shun Jilia indifferently. Her expression was cold and determined. It was Shun Jilia's first time seeing Yi Qianqian like this. He was a little scared. His hand unconsciously loosened. Yi Qianqian flung him aside forcefully and strode forward. Yi Qianqian, Shun Jilia shouted and instinctively wanted to chase after her. However, Lao Zhou quickly grabbed him and said, Brother Shun, you don't want her hand anymore? Shun Jilia roared, No. He pushed Lao Zhou away and chased after her. However, there were many people in the corridor. Yi Qianqian squeezed into the crowd. By the time Shun Jilia caught up with her, he had already lost sight of her. Shun Jilia looked at the corridor and strode out. He looked left and right, but in the end, he didn't see anything. Lao Zhou caught up with him, looking a little nervous. Brother Shun, you should take care of your wound as soon as possible. Look, it's bleeding. If it gets infected, it won't be a joke. Where's my woman? Shun Jilia turned to look at Lao Zhou. Have you seen her? Where did she go? Lao Zhou was stunned. He hadn't been paying attention to the girl at all. All his attention was on Shun Jilia's arm. Lao Zhou didn't know how to respond to Shun Jilia's question. Shun Jilia gritted his teeth. Give me the phone. When Elder Zhou heard this roar, he knew that the situation was getting serious. Shun Jilia snatched the phone from her and dialed Yi Qianqian's number. Yi Qianqian turned around and ran into the fire escape door. He closed the door and listened to the sounds coming and going from outside. It was as if the whole world had become distant at this moment. Chapter 1761. It was over. It was time to end it. She had a best friend and a boyfriend. It is time to end it. She closed her eyes tightly and turned to walk to Basement 1. Basement 1 and Basement 2 were both underground parking lots. Neither Shun Jilia nor Fong Tongtong could go there. Yi Qianqian jogged down the stairs. Her phone began to vibrate. She picked it up and saw an unknown number. She was in Kingstown. She didn't think anyone else would call her at a time like this except for Shun Jilia or Fong Tongtong. She glanced at the number, hung up, and switched off her phone. Shun Jilia searched the entire hospital, regardless of whether it was the corridors or the doors. He also asked the patients, nurses, and doctors who were passing by. But no one saw him. It was as if he was hiding on purpose and didn't want Shun Jilia to find him. Fong Tongtong followed behind Shun Jilia. Lao Zhou looked at Shun Jilia awkwardly and said, Brother Shun, you can't do this. Your hand. Shun Jilia glanced at his arms. His hands, which had been properly bandaged, were now stained red with blood. It looked a little scary. Shun Julia only realized that his arm was hurting when he saw it. Yeah, Shun Julia replied. His pale face turned even uglier. Let's go. No matter what, you have to take care of yourself first before you explain this misunderstanding to sister-in-law. Lao Zhou scratched his head. He was already clumsy, but he didn't know what else to say. He subconsciously glanced at Fong Tong Tong. Lao Zhou felt even more awkward. He had always thought that Miss Fong was Shun Julia's boyfriend. He had been calling her sister-in-law for so many days. He was wondering why Shun Julia didn't seem to be that passionate toward Fong Tong Tong. He thought he was a hypocrite and didn't love his girlfriend as much as he appeared to love her. He didn't expect it to be a misunderstanding. In this way, everything made sense. Fong Tong Tong had been trying to get close to Shun Julia, but Shun Julia's attitude was neither too close nor too distant. Lao Zhou didn't think it was appropriate for this girl. When almost everyone who knew Shun Julia started calling her sister-in-law, she had never denied it. Otherwise, why would he think so? Based on Shun Julia's reaction, it was obvious that the girl was his real girlfriend. It was obvious that their relationship had fallen apart. Shun Julia walked back to his room like a zombie. He retrieved his cell phone and dialed Yi Yu's number. Yi Yu was still sleeping. It was rare for Li Jinan to be at home with his wife. When he saw that the caller was Shun Julia, he didn't hesitate to answer the call. What's up? His voice was light and carried the laziness of someone who just woke up. When Shun Julia heard Li Jinan's voice, he was silent for a moment before asking, "Where's Yu? He's asleep. What's the matter? I'll pass on the message for you." Did Qian call her? No. Well, if Qian calls you, please let me know. I'll be very grateful. Chapter 1762. Did they quarrel? Shun Julia chuckled, but his eyes were slightly red. If only it were that simple. That's all. Let me know if I call you again. Okay. After hanging up, Shun Julia passed the phone to Yu Lily. Yi Qian didn't have many friends. Other than her best friend Fong Tong Tong, Yu Lily was the closest to her. The phone rang a few times, but no one picked up. Shun Julia gripped his phone tightly. Yu Lily was also pregnant, so she was probably still asleep. This also meant that it was very likely that Yi Qian hadn't called her at all. Otherwise, Yu Lily would have long been awake. As expected, the call was quickly connected. It was exactly as Shun Julia had expected. Shun Julia hung up the phone in defeat and allowed his colleague to treat his wound. Fong Tong Tong stood far away and looked at Shun Julia, not daring to approach. Suddenly, Shun Julia looked over. Fong Tong Tong suddenly tensed up. Her entire body tensed up as she looked at Shun Julia. Shun Julia stared at Fong Tong Tong for a long time before saying, "You should go back to Yintown. It's already chaotic enough." He didn't scold or complain. There was only this kind of estrangement that was so obvious that it made people's hearts feel stuffy. It was cold and determined, without the slightest bit of mercy. Although Shun Julia wasn't close to her these days, he had never treated her with such an attitude. But I'm very curious. Aren't you Qian's best friend? Why didn't you say a word when she was so angry just now? Based on her trust in you, she would believe you as long as you explain. Shun Julia's voice was a little sharp, and it could even be said to be a little aggressive. Fong Tong Tong held her breath. She didn't know what to say. Gu Yuansheng heard the commotion and rushed over. He heard Shun Julia's words the moment he entered. When he heard that, he knew things weren't simple. He was about to speak up for Fong Tong Tong when he saw Shun Julia's slightly swollen face the moment he entered. It was red and swollen. Gu Yuansheng swallowed the words that were on the tip of his tongue and said, "Brother Shun, your face." Shun Julia's eyes were fixed on Fong Tong Tong as he asked indifferently, "Did you tell her something else?" Fong Tong Tong's eyes were fixed on Shun Julia. Fong Tong Tong didn't know how to respond to his interrogation. Or rather, when faced with such a Shun Julia, her reflexes had been forced to slow down by half a beat. She did something bad. But how could she say it? How could she say it here? I didn't. Qian's personality has always been like this. You've lived with her for so long. You know her very well, don't you? She's always been like this since she was young. She'll be happy if things go her way, and she'll make a fuss if things don't go her way. Fong looked at Shunjilia. But this was the truth, wasn't it? Yes, that was the truth. That's the kind of person Qianqian is. She likes to make a mountain out of a molehill. The only reason she's treating you like this now is because she doesn't love you enough. Otherwise, why wouldn't she listen to your explanation? Chapter 1763. Fong Tongtong's words were harsh and hurtful. When the people in the ward heard that, they couldn't help but look at each other. Finally, their gazes fell on Shunjilia. Shunjilia's face, which was already dark to begin with, darkened. For a long time, Shunjilia had always given people the impression of a warm spring breeze. He was an outstanding man who relied on his own strength to sit in this position at such a young age. Shunjilia was not only capable, but he also had an enviable temper. Everyone there was the same. They had never seen Shunjilia with such an expression. "What business is it of yours?" Shunjilia looked at Fong Tongtong coldly. "I know how my own woman treats me." There was not the slightest warmth in his gaze. Fong Tongtong was a little frightened by Shunjilia's behavior. She mumbled, "How can it have nothing to do with me? Yi Qianqian is my best friend. She can slap you indiscriminately now, but what about next time? Have you thought about what will happen next time? Yi Qianqian has always been this unruly and willful. She doesn't care about other people's feelings at all. You heard what she said just now. It's obvious that she misunderstood us, but she didn't even listen to our explanation. Aren't you angry at all?" Yi Qianqian looked at Shunjilia. Fong Tongtong, Shunjilia interrupted her and said coldly, "You claim that Yi Qianqian is your bestie, but based on what I know, a bestie is equivalent to a brother in a man's circle." When Fong Tongtong heard that, she didn't know what he was trying to say. She looked at Shunjilia and didn't know what to do. To be honest, if my brother talked bad about me in front of my girlfriend like this, I wouldn't hesitate to break up with him. Fong Tongtong was shocked and tried to defend herself. "But I'm telling the truth." "The truth?" Shunjilia's expression darkened even further. "Yi Qianqian treats you with all her heart. What about you? You're telling her boyfriend the truth?" "Old Shun, I'm doing this for your own good." Fong Tongtong's voice sounded much weaker than before. "That's enough." Shunjilia smiled, but there was an indescribable sarcasm in his smile. "It's all my fault." "Shunjilia." Fong Tongtong was at a loss. "You should leave. I don't think there's anything left to say between us." Shunjilia looked away and looked at the wound that he had just bandaged. "I don't think Qianqian needs a bestie like you anymore." Fong Tongtong subconsciously recalled Yi Qianqian's near breakdown state earlier. At the same time, she also recalled what Yi Qianqian had said to her the night before. "Best friend, the hospital's underground parking lot was huge. It was so huge that it took Yi Qianqian more than 10 minutes to walk out of the hospital. The people who came and went seemed to have witnessed the farce just now, and there might be people who recognized her, so they took a few more glances at her. The sun was scorching, and Yi Qianqian's entire body trembled unconsciously. Even her eyes felt like they were being ironed. Layers of scorching heat rose up, stirring up a dense mist. Yi Qianqian's vision was blurry. She lowered her head and walked aimlessly like a loser. Yi Qianqian would never have imagined that her best friend and her boyfriend would end up together. Chapter 1764. Yi Qianqian walked to the side of the road in a daze and looked for a taxi. When she got in a taxi, the driver glanced at her and asked, "Where to?" To where? Yi Qianqian didn't know either. "Go home." No, she didn't want to go home. When she thought about how Fong Tongtong had intruded into the happy nest she thought she had with Shunjilia, she couldn't help but feel disgusted. Her best friend had become a mistress. How could she encounter such a melodramatic thing? Yi Qianqian's lips twitched, and she asked, "Do you know any fun places around here? It's not a stupid place to go alone." The driver could tell that Yi Qianqian was in a bad mood and asked, "Are you in a bad mood?" "Yeah. Did you quarrel with your boyfriend?" "We broke up. Of course I have to eat alone when I'm heartbroken." "Have you eaten?" "No. Yi Qianqian pursed her lips and touched her stomach. I'm really hungry. Do you know where to go now? I don't know. Yi Qianqian pursed her lips, and she couldn't hold back her tears. That be asterisk starred usually cooks. The driver was speechless. When he saw her like this, he sighed and said, I'll take you to a good place. My wife likes to eat desserts there. I heard it's delicious there. Yeah. Yi Qianqian nodded with tears in her eyes. Thank you, sir. The driver looked at her sympathetically through the rearview mirror and quickly started the car. The driver sent Yi Qianqian to a famous high-end shopping mall in the city. Yi Qianqian followed the driver's instructions and walked over. There was a dessert shop at the bottom of the shopping mall. The decoration looked very elegant. After Yi Qianqian walked in, she randomly ordered a few desserts. Looking around, she saw that the people around her were either couples or families. Yi Qianqian sat alone on a chair and looked at the empty seat across from her. She felt stupid. Her red eyes were burning, and she couldn't hold back her tears. The restaurant was very quiet. Yi Qianqian lowered her head and covered her mouth. She leaned against the table, and her shoulders trembled slightly. She bit her lower lip hard to prevent herself from crying. No one noticed her. When the waitress served the dessert, she noticed Yi Qianqian's trembling shoulders and thoughtfully placed the dish on the table. She gently knocked on the table and softly said, Eat it while it's hot. It won't taste as good when it's cold. Yi Qianqian raised her head slightly and glanced at the exquisite dishes in front of her. She sniffed and reached out to pull them over. Thank you. His voice was low and choked with sobs. The waiter smiled and quickly left. But when he returned, he was holding a small toy in his hand. It was a small doll in a classic Super Mario style, small and cute. The waiter pressed a button, and then the Super Mario ringtone sounded. It was cute and funny. With tears in her eyes, Yi Qianqian raised her head and glanced at the waitress. The waiter's eyes curved slightly as he said, It's for you. Thank you. Yi Qianqian pressed the button a few times. The ringtone sounded again and again. It was very cute. After Yi Qianqian finished her meal, the waiter even gave her a discount when she paid the bill. Yi Qianqian found it a little amusing. She didn't know that she could get such an advantage by eating alone. Walking out of the mall, the sun was even brighter. Chapter 1765. Yi Qianqian looked up and saw the five-star hotel directly across the street. Next to the hotel was a KTV. Yi Qianqian booked a room and ordered 24 beers. The reason was that the most cost-effective drink here was beer. Buy 12, get 12 free. Yi Qianqian asked for the smallest private room in the most remote corner of the room and chose all the songs on the charts. Yi Qianqian leaped onto the table and howled, I'm dead. Love them all. The waiter stood at the door and frowned as he listened. That was King awful. At first, the waiters would come and take a few glances, but in the end, they couldn't stand it anymore, and no one approached. Yi Qianqian downed bottle after bottle. When it came to beer, Yi Qianqian never restrained herself. In the past, Yi Qianqian would drink a cup or two if she had nothing to do. However, ever since she started dating Shun Jiliya, Yi Qianqian had stopped drinking. First, it was because Shun Jiliya didn't like it. Second, it was because Shun Jiliya refused to buy it. This time, he had a drink to his heart's content. Yi Qianqian gulped down a few bottles. Suddenly, a familiar melody filled the air. She used to like a song very much, Fan Weiqi's One Like Summer, One Like Autumn. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't believe it. A friend is more devoted than a lover. Even if I'm too busy dating to freeze you. You don't hate me. You just yell at me. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't be sure. A friend listens better than a lover my unspoken words, my thoughtless words. I can't leave, darling, and I can't leave you. Yi Qianqian screamed out the lyrics in tears and threw the microphone away in the end. Go to hell with your bestie. Yi Qianqian screamed. Tears streamed down her cheeks. He sat down and opened a few more bottles. From 11 o'clock in the morning until 1 o'clock in the afternoon, Yi Qianqian had already drunk more than a dozen bottles. She was lying on the sofa, groggy and half-dead. Burp. Yi Qianqian burped, stood up, and stumbled into the bathroom. After the water was drained, The loud music in the room was still playing. She was the only one in the small room, and the floor was littered with wine bottles. Yi Qianqian leaned back on the sofa, her whole body sprawled out. Yi Qianqian was lying down when she suddenly rummaged through her bag. He took out the phone that had been switched off for a long time and turned it on. The words on the phone were no longer clear. Yi Qianqian couldn't even tell whether it was one word or two. After staring at the screen for a long time, she finally saw that Shun Julia had made more than 20 calls. There were more than 40 missed calls. Shun Julia, Fong Tong Tong, Yu Lily, Yi Yu. There were quite a lot of people. There were also hundreds of WeChat messages and a series of messages bombarding him. Yi Qianqian chuckled. She opened the keyboard and dialed a string of numbers that she had memorized by heart. However, when she dialed the number, it turned into 3 words, Shun Julia. It was as if the person on the other end of the line had been waiting for a call. As soon as the call connected, Shun Julia immediately picked it up. Hello, burp. Yi Qianqian snorted and didn't say a word. When Shun Julia heard the voice, he was delighted. Qianqian, is that you? Where are you? Shun Julia? It's me. Are you drunk? I'll pick you up now. Dash. Chapter 1766. Yi Qianqian wasn't at home. After Shun Julia bandaged his wound, he went to all the places that Yi Qianqian might have gone to. Among them were Yi Qianqian's company, Yi Yuyu's home, Yu Lily's home, and the places that they often ate at. However, there were none of them. Only God knew that Shun Julia was about to go crazy. He finally received a call from Yi Qianqian. When Shun Julia heard Yi Qianqian's drunken voice, the weight in his heart didn't drop. Instead, it was suddenly lifted, and his nerves were stretched to the extreme. Shun Julia's anxious voice came through the phone. In a daze, Yi Qianqian felt waves of grievance engulf her. The anger that had been suppressed in her heart for a long time surged out. Yi Qianqian burst into tears. She didn't even try to hide her sobs. The earth-shattering cries were transmitted through the KTV microphone to the entire room, echoing incessantly. The waiter heard the commotion and quickly came over to take a look. There were many bottles of alcohol in front of Yi Qianqian. She was lying unsteadily on the sofa. Shun Julia, you be ****. Shun Julia felt that something was wrong. He asked, where are you? I'll go find you. Don't scare me, Qianqian. Things are not what you think they are. ****CKU. Yi Qianqian cried and screamed. She rubbed her eyes hard. I must have been blind to have fallen for someone like you. You be ****. You could have slept with anyone. Sob. You just had to sleep with that be ***TCH, Fong Tong Tong. She's my bestie. Burp. Yi Qianqian burped. She was about to speak again, but she suddenly couldn't breathe. Her entire face turned red, and she vomited toward the edge of the sofa. Blarg. The microphone was so close that the sound could be heard throughout the entire room. When Shun Julia heard the sound, he naturally knew what was going on. He ran toward the door and shouted, Yi Qianqian, how much did you drink? Were you at the bar? Or the restaurant? The only response he got was the sound of vomiting. Shun Julia scratched his ears and cheeks. When the sound of vomiting stopped, he asked Qianqian. However, the other side had already quietened down, and there was no longer any sound. Shun Julia didn't dare to hang up the phone. He walked on the road, but there was nothing he could do. Where the hell is she? Where could she be? Shun Julia had no clue what to do. All he could do was call out her name over and over again as he waited for her response. Yi Qianqian didn't say another word. It was as if she had fallen asleep. Silence. It was eerily quiet. Shun Julia could feel the pain radiating from his hand. As he looked at the wound, Shun Julia couldn't help but recall what Fong Tong Tong had said in the ward. Yi Qianqian has never thought about marrying you. Do you think she'll grow old with you? Don't be naive. This is just your wishful thinking. This sentence was like a magic sound lingering in his ears, lingering in his mind. Just wishful thinking? Yi Qianqian had always made it very clear that she didn't want to get married for the time being. Chapter 1767. Under such circumstances, Shun Juliet couldn't be sure how much of what he said was true and how much was false. Perhaps Yi Qianqian only wanted to test his loyalty to her under those circumstances, or perhaps Yi Qianqian was serious. However, there was no doubt that even if Yi Qianqian had such intentions, it had been completely erased by his adultery with Fong Tongtong. Shun Juliet sat on the sofa in frustration. He scratched his head as he listened to the silence on the other end of the phone. Even if he really had a chance, he had already dug his own grave. This feeling was even more unbearable than not having one in the first place. Defeat. Many things in Shun Juliet's life had been smooth sailing. He had always prided himself on his intelligence. This was the first time he had encountered such an embarrassing situation. Shun Juliet closed his eyes. After some time, Yi Qianqian's voice suddenly came from the other end. Shun Juliet. Shun Juliet perked up and immediately sat up straight. I'm here. However, the voice on the other end seemed to be just sleep-talking. Very soon, there was no sound. Shun Juliet. The voice was extremely soft and soft. Shun Juliet quietly listened to the movements on the other end and said softly, Qianqian, tell me where you are. I was wrong. I was really wrong. Yi Qianqian heard a low intake of breath on the other end. She sounded extremely aggrieved, but she didn't cry out. Qianqian. Yi Qianqian's stomach was full of water. It didn't take long for her to want to use the toilet. She subconsciously sniffled and got up. Vaguely, she seemed to hear Shun Juliet's voice. However, after looking around, she couldn't find anything. Yi Qianqian didn't care. She stumbled into the bathroom in the private room. After turning on the water, she felt extremely thirsty. When she walked out, she saw a bottle of beer and opened it. Yi Qianqian tilted her head back and took a big gulp. She gulped down half a bottle in one go. Yi Qianqian wiped her mouth and looked up at the screen. The song was still playing, but Yi Qianqian had turned off the volume. Yi Qianqian pressed the button to play the song again. Shun Juliet immediately heard the exaggerated and terrifying music. Caught off guard, Shun Juliet jumped in fright. He looked at his cell phone and confirmed that he was indeed on the line with Yi Qianqian. Yi Qianqian hollered into the microphone. Of course it's my fault. Why did you suddenly leave and leave me behind? Why did you see through it so quickly? Why did you leave me behind? A drunken voice with a lisp. There were even some parts that were read out directly, and the tone couldn't even keep up. Shun Juliet was speechless. KTV. Drinking in a KTV? Shun Juliet immediately got up, opened the door, and walked out. Yi Qianqian finished all the beer, and her face was shockingly hot. Her head was dizzy. She grabbed her bag and stumbled out. I'm home. I'm home. I'm home. Yi Qianqian muttered under her breath. She pressed the button for the elevator and went downstairs. He looked around. A drunken woman like Yi Qianqian was very eye-catching. His whole body reeked of beer as he stumbled along with a bag. What Yi Qianqian had always wanted to do, but was reluctant to do, was to splurge on a night at a 5-star hotel. As the saying goes, drinking boosts courage. Chapter 1768. The waitress had been watching Yi Qianqian for a long time. When she saw Yi Qianqian drinking alone, she couldn't stand it anymore. When she came back from the bathroom, she was gone. At first, she thought that the woman had gone to the bathroom. But after going back and forth 3 times, she was nowhere to be found. In the end, the waiter still walked in. But as soon as he entered, he smelled an extremely unpleasant smell of alcohol, as well as the nauseating stench of vomit. She pinched her nose and looked around again. Then, she saw a cell phone on the sofa. The cell phone was a beautiful rose gold color. She picked it up and saw a call page on it. The call had been connected for nearly 2 hours. The waiter clicked his tongue when he saw that the phone was indeed clean. He then turned off the music, picked up the phone, and put it to his ear. Hello. Shun Juliet was blindly searching the KTV near his home. He kept an eye on the cell phone for any signs of activity. The sudden sound of a man's voice made Shun Juliet's entire body tense up. Almost reflexively, Shun Juliet's eyes narrowed and he asked, Who are you? When the waitress heard the voice, she knew that the caller was not friendly. She coughed lightly and said, Hello. Who is the owner of this cell phone to you? She's my woman. Where is she? This lady is drunk. She should have left by now, but her cell phone is still in the private room. She left? Where did she go? Shunjilia's heart was in his throat. How could you do this? You didn't even look after the client. How could you let a drunk woman leave? We can't control the client's freedom to come and go, but she should have just left. She shouldn't have gone far. Where's your place? Give me the address immediately. I'll be there right now. The waitress gave the address and left the cell phone at the front desk. Shunjilia hailed a cab and realized that the place was very far away. It was more than 30 kilometers away from their home. It took Shunjilia almost an hour to reach the place. The cell phone was found, but where was the person? Yi Qianqian's head fell onto the bed, and she fell into a deep sleep. When he woke up, his head was so dizzy that it felt like it was going to explode. Frowning, he had unknowingly sweated all over. When he got up, he remembered that he had fallen asleep in the hotel. After fanning herself, she realized that she hadn't even plugged in the key card to get the electricity. Yi Qianqian inserted the key card and turned on the air conditioner. Her body was burning hot. Looking left and right, she was surprised to see the hotel's name on the left and right. The 5 stars on the signboard displayed the nobility of the place she was currently lying on. Yi Qianqian suddenly felt a pang in her heart. She began to feel the pinch of her money. The saying that drinking boosted one's courage was indeed correct. Under normal circumstances, Yi Qianqian would never have come to a 5-star hotel. First, it was expensive. Second, it was expensive. Third, it was expensive. Oh, I was actually so impulsive, I miscalculated. Yi Qianqian's heart ached as she searched for her cell phone. She wanted to see what time it was, but she couldn't find her cell phone anywhere. Damn it. Yi Qianqian knocked her head. She was so annoyed that she had nothing to say. Even his phone was gone. Who could compare to such bad luck? Chapter 1769. Hello, front desk. Hello, what time is it now? Yi Qianqian's voice was filled with annoyance. The receptionist was stunned when she heard that. She looked at the time and said, Hello, madam. It's 1:32 in the morning now. How may I help you? Well, do you have hangover tea? Give me something to eat while you're at it. Yes, madam. I'll arrange for a specialist to take your order. Please wait a moment. Okay, thank you. Yi Qianqian hung up the phone and lay on the bed like a corpse. Her head was throbbing. She seemed to have downed 24 bottles of wine on her own. There were exactly 24 bottles. This was the first time Yi Qianqian had drunk so much wine, and she had done it alone. Other than going up and down to the toilet and vomiting a few times, there didn't seem to be much of a difference. Yi Qianqian suddenly admired herself. She had gone to a place like a KTV alone and drowned her sorrows in alcohol like a fool. However, it turned out that it didn't work at all. Not only did it not drown her sorrows, but it also caused her to have a hangover. After a while, the waiter came to take their order. After Yi Qianqian ate and drank the hangover soup, she felt much better. After taking a shower, Yi Qianqian slept all the way until dawn. When she woke up, the sky was already bright. Yi Qianqian looked out the window and saw that the sky was already bright. Suddenly, she rolled out of bed like a carp. I'm doomed. I'm doomed. She still had to go to work today. Yi Qianqian immediately rushed to the bathroom. After washing up, she picked up her bag and went downstairs to check out of the room. When she checked out, Yi Qianqian's eyes immediately fell on the big clocks behind the cashier's counter. I'm doomed. It's already 8:30. Yi Qianqian paid the bill. She wanted to cry, but had no tears. She rushed out to hail a cab. It was reported that this place was a full 30 kilometers away from the headquarters of Eurasian Comics. In other words, it seemed that she was going to be late no matter what. Yi Qianqian hugged her bag and panicked in the car. Leaders always had the ability to do everything well when things were good. However, when you were late, no matter how good they were to you, they would always have a million ways to scold you. Less than 5 minutes after Yi Qianqian got into the car, the situation dissipated significantly. Now that she was free, Yi Qianqian didn't even have a cell phone. It would take her at least 40 minutes to get to the office from there. She didn't have anything to kill her time with, so her brain started to churn. The emotions that she had been able to toss to the back of her mind since yesterday suddenly surged up and mixed up all of her thoughts. It was difficult to ignore them now. Yi Qianqian's breathing quickened. She twisted the strap of her backpack and stared at her fingernails without blinking. Due to the traffic jam, it was already 9:20 p.m. when Yi Qianqian arrived at the office. 20 minutes late. Yi Qianqian was no longer flustered. $100 would be deducted if she was half an hour late, and $100 would still be deducted if she was 20 minutes late. It was better to slow down and not waste her time. What Yi Qianqian didn't expect was to see a familiar figure standing at the entrance of the company when she reached it. It's over. Chapter 1770. Yi Qianqian couldn't dodge in time and stopped in her tracks. Why would I see the chief editor here? Could it be that she had been late too many times recently, so this leader had come to the door to reprimand her? At the thought of that possibility, Yi Qianqian panicked even more. Yi Qianqian met the chief editor's gaze and smiled sheepishly. When the chief editor saw Yi Qianqian, she immediately stopped making the call and looked at Yi Qianqian with a dark expression. When Yi Qianqian saw the situation, she knew that things were not looking good. No matter what, he was still a leader. Yi Qianqian braced herself and walked up to him. Yi Qianqian. The chief editor gritted her teeth and looked at Yi Qianqian. You're finally here. Yi Qianqian shrunk her neck, pouted her lips, and shouted, Boss. As she screamed, Yi Qianqian lunged at the chief editor. The chief editor stepped back and said with a look of disgust, You reek of alcohol. Sob, sob, sob. Yi Qianqian held half truthfully. Big boss, I didn't mean to be late. I was heartbroken. Ow, ow, ow. I accidentally woke up late, so... The editor-in-chief's expression was even worse. He said, You want to die just because of a quarrel? You even lost your phone. You're really something. Yi Qianqian was taken aback. How did you know that I lost my cell phone? How could I not know? Your boyfriend was here just now. When he couldn't wait for you, I asked him to get something to eat before coming back. The chief editor snapped. It's all thanks to your boyfriend that everyone knows you're late. Even if I wanted to open the back door for you, I wouldn't be able to. Write a report before you get off work today, and the money will still be deducted. Yi Qianqian had a dumbfounded look on her face as she asked, Did old Shin come by? You've been here for a long time. You even stopped me on my way to work and asked me if I knew where you were. How the hell would I know where you were? The chief editor's face was full of envy and jealousy. She pointed behind Yi Qianqian and said, Look, you're here. Yi Qianqian's body stiffened, and she turned her head to look. Shun Julia's hand was bandaged and hung from his neck. With a single look, one could tell that the thick bandage was not to be underestimated. When he saw Yi Qianqian, he immediately straightened up and ran toward her. When Yi Qianqian saw him, she grabbed her bag and ran to the office. Shun Julia saw her from afar and shouted, Yi Qianqian, let's go. I don't want to see him. Yi Qianqian tugged at her editor. The chief editor was caught off guard and asked, What's wrong with him? Yi Qianqian's voice faltered. She didn't know where to start. Yi Qianqian was the queen of performance in the company. She couldn't possibly tell them that she, Yi Qianqian, had been successful in her career, but her best friend had stolen her man in the field of love. In any case, I don't want to see him. We've already broken up. I don't care what you guys did, but looking at your boyfriend's attitude, if you don't clear things up with him today, he won't leave. You'd better settle this quickly and come back to work as soon as possible. You have so many things to do, and you still have a nerve to ask for leave yesterday. The chief editor pulled her hand back and gave Yi Qianqian a push before quickly walking into the office. When she turned around, Shun Julia was already right in front of her. Shun Julia grabbed Yi Qianqian's hand. Panting, he called out, Qianqian. Chapter 1771. The emotions that she had suppressed with much difficulty were stirred up again. Yi Qianqian raised her head to take a look. Shun Julia's face was a little pale. There were dark circles under his eyes, and there was a thin layer of stubble on the side of his mouth. His originally bright and clean face seemed to have aged quite a bit in the few days that they had not seen each other. Yi Qianqian pursed her lips. She felt terrible. Everything had changed in the few days that they had not seen each other. How much could a person's heart contain? She had never known that the man that she had always trusted and relied on could coax her into submission and seduce her best friend at the same time. What Yi Qianqian had never expected was that Shun Julia could still shamelessly come up to her even after she had already seen through him. Yi Qianqian laughed coldly. She waved her hand impatiently and shouted, "Are you done yet? I already said that we broke up." "Qianqian, listen to my explanation. It's true. Fang Tong and I are not in the kind of relationship that you think we are. The reason why she came to the hospital to see me was because I didn't want you to worry. Didn't I tell you a few days ago that I have a female patient who is a mistress? She even aborted her child, so she has some mental problems." Yi Qianqian listened to Shun Julia's words with a cold expression. She did not speak, but there was not much of an expression on her face either. Shun Julia looked at Yi Qianqian. His grip on her hand tightened as he said, "That night, I was working overtime and accidentally touched upon her mental barrier. She wanted to harm herself, but I was stopped by me. She hurt me instead." As he spoke, Shun Julia pointed to his arm, which was tightly bandaged. "Look, this is the evidence. My hand received 12 stitches, and my major blood vessels were injured. After a blood transfusion, I needed to be hospitalized, but I didn't want you to worry, so I told you that I had returned to the capital. I didn't expect that Fang Tongtong would suddenly call Gu Yuansheng." The sneer on Yi Qianqian's face widened. She tried to retract her hand, but it was gripped tightly by Shun Julia's grip. "Gu Yuansheng is a colleague that I wanted to introduce to Fang Tongtong. Didn't I give her a name card?" At that time, Gu Yuansheng told her. "When she said that she wanted to come and take care of me, I rejected her, but she said that she wanted to tell you. I was afraid that if you found out that I was lying to you, you'd be unhappy, so are you done?" Yi Qianqian's voice was cold, and her face was expressionless. She looked at Shun Julia, who was holding her hand, and asked, "Are you embarrassed?" When Shun Julia saw her expression, he knew that Yi Qianqian didn't believe him. His heart was burning with anxiety as he shouted, "What I said is true, Qianqian. Oh, then can you let go of me now?" When Yi Qianqian said that, her heart felt like it was being pricked by needles. She looked at Shun Julia with a look of mockery in her eyes. "I've heard your explanation. You can leave now. I have to go back to work. I'm very busy." Shun Julia looked at Yi Qianqian. "Yi Qianqian." Shun Julia's eyes were red. "What do I have to do for you to believe me? I really didn't have anything going on with Fang Tongtong. If there really was anything going on between me and Fang Tongtong, I'll be struck by lightning and die a horrible death." "Fine, I believe you. Let go of me. I'm going to work." Yi Qianqian. Chapter 1772. Shun Julia took a deep breath and tried to calm himself down. He said, "Since you haven't eaten yet, let's go eat together. I'll show you the evidence." "There's more evidence?" Yi Qianqian raised her eyebrows slightly. "You're well prepared." Shun Julia was furious, but he couldn't get angry at that moment. He held Yi Qianqian's hand firmly. "Let's go. What do you want to eat? Let's eat something fast. I took a day off yesterday to catch an adulterer. Now that I'm done, I have to come back to work. Otherwise, my boss will be angry." Yi Qianqian shrugged helplessly. Catching an adulterer? Shun Julia was even more furious. He unconsciously tightened his grip on her hand. Yi Qianqian felt pain from his grip, but she frowned and didn't say anything. Shun Julia dragged her to a nearby breakfast shop. It was fast, but Yi Qianqian didn't like it. She wasn't usually picky about food, but she didn't like rice noodle rolls. This shop served rice noodle rolls and porridge together. Yi Qianqian hesitated when she saw the shop, but she still walked in. Shun Julia ordered. Both sets were Yi Qianqian's favorite flavors. After ordering, they found a place to sit down. Shun Julia looked at Yi Qianqian and said, "If you don't believe me, why can't you suspect your best friend? She was the one who insisted on taking care of me. I couldn't stop her. If I gave her a hard time, she would threaten me. The fact that you were threatened means that you have something on you. You must have done something wrong, right?" Bullsh**T. Shun Julia panicked. "You're my weakness. You're my weakness. The worst thing I've ever done is that I didn't dare tell you when someone stabbed me. I even told you that I went to the capital. God knows how I managed to survive these past few days. I've always been worried that the woman with the surname Fong would betray me. If you found out that I was lying to you, I'd definitely die a horrible death. As Shun Julia spoke, he didn't forget to look at Yi Qianqian. Yi Qianqian didn't seem to have much of an expression on her face. She stared intently at the wooden table in the shop. Shun Julia sighed and said, "It's all good now. I don't have to worry about being betrayed anymore. The current situation is even worse than being betrayed by her." Did she say something to you? Based on Yi Qianqian's personality, it was difficult to change her mind once she set her mind on something. However, it wasn't easy for Yi Qianqian to set her mind on something. When Yi Qianqian heard Shun Julia's question, the corners of her mouth twitched, but she didn't say a word. In Shun Julia's eyes, such a small expression was tantamount to a direct admission. "Qianqian, we've been together for so many days. You felt how I've treated you. You should know better than anyone else what kind of person I am. You can't just give me a death sentence based on one side of the story from someone else. Hello, here is your meal." "Thank you," Yi Qianqian said and pulled the food in front of her. Shun Julia's eyes were fixed on Yi Qianqian. He was extremely serious as he said, "You're being unfair to me. Tong Tong likes you," Yi Qianqian suddenly said. "She likes you very much." "So what?" Shun Julia retorted reflexively, but he soon had a bad feeling. He narrowed his eyes and said dangerously, "Don't tell me you're thinking of giving up your boyfriend to her." Chapter 1773. When Shun Julia saw Yi Qianqian's reaction, he was even more certain of his guess. It was highly possible that Yi Qianqian was thinking the same thing. Shun Julia clenched his teeth in anger. He slammed his fist on the table and growled, "Yi Qianqian, what do you take me for?" Shun Julia's voice was not loud, but he slammed the table firmly. Many people around them looked over. Yi Qianqian looked around and felt her face burning. She tugged at Shun Julia and rebuked him. "What are you doing? Do you want everyone to know that we're quarreling? Why don't you tell me what you mean?" Shun Julia's expression was still ugly, but his voice was lower. "Or perhaps you wanted to break up with me a long time ago, and Fong Tongtong's incident was just an excuse?" Yi Qianqian was annoyed when she heard that. "You King cheated on me, and you're trying to pin the blame on me? Shun Julia, how can you be so shameless?" Shun Julia's face turned even darker. "I didn't. No matter how many times you say it, I didn't. I don't know what Fong Tong Tong said to you, but even if there were 10 women like her, the outcome would be the same. I don't like women like that. I like you." Yi Qianqian pursed her lips. "Tong Tong told me that you two are in love with each other and have a lot to talk about when you're together. Indeed, I've seen it too. Your relationship is indeed very good. On the contrary, I'm more like a third party in the middle. You two are in love with each other? Have a lot to talk about." Shun Julia laughed. "Other than her sucking up to me, what other common topics do we have? Furthermore, if every girl I get along with did the same thing, I wouldn't have lived to this age. Qianqian, you're insulting my character. Do you dare to say that you don't like Fong Tong Tong?" "I don't." Yi Qianqian pursed her lips and didn't say anything. She lowered her head and took a sip of porridge. She pushed the rice noodle roll in front of Shun Julia without saying a word. Shun Julia was also hungry. He hadn't had a proper meal since yesterday. When he saw Yi Qianqian's face, his uneasy heart finally calmed down. He took the rice noodle roll and ate slowly. Both Shun Julia and Yi Qianqian tacitly stopped talking. Since he had already said it, Yi Qianqian should understand. She understood him as he understood her. Indeed, Yi Qianqian knew exactly how much truth there was in his words. After all, Shun Julia had nothing to gain from her, except for the sex that he hadn't experienced for days. But with Shun Julia's qualifications, as long as he said the word, countless girls would throw themselves at him and let him choose. But Shun Julia had chosen her. He had shamelessly begged for her forgiveness and her trust. She tried her best to control her temper and explain herself. He didn't have to do this. However, it was precisely because he knew that he felt bitterly disappointed. Her best friend, who had grown up with her, actually lied to her like this for a man. Fong Tong Tong had never left Yin Town, and she had never interacted with much of society. However, she had such shrewdness and means. She clearly understood her temperament and knew all of her weaknesses. She knew very well that Yi Qianqian would lose her mind because of her words and shun Julia's deception. However, Fong Tong Tong was wrong about one thing. Yi Qianqian truly loved him and shunned Julia. Chapter 1774. Seeing Yi Qianqian's silence, Julia couldn't help but quiet down. Julia lowered his head and ate without a word. After he finished all the food that Yi Qianqian didn't like, he looked up and asked, "When you get off work, I'll come and pick you up." "No need. I didn't come to work yesterday. I might have to work overtime today." As she spoke, she looked at Julia's hand and asked, "Is it serious?" Julia, who had been tense all this while, suddenly relaxed. When he saw the worry in Yi Qianqian's eyes, a smile gradually appeared in his eyes as he replied, "It's not serious." "Well, that's good." Yi Qianqian stood up. "I'm full. I'll pay the bill. You can go back to the hospital. I can be discharged. I don't need to go to the hospital." Julia quickly stood up as well. "I'll be staying at home from now on. The hospital has approved a month's leave. I'll just have to wait for the stitches to be removed before going to the hospital." "Oh." She turned around and said, "I'll pay the bill. Take your time. I can't finish it." "Yeah." Julia looked at her back. "Go ahead then. I'll pick you up tonight." "There's no need." Yi Qianqian turned around without looking back. Julia sat down and breathed a sigh of relief. Yi Qianqian arrived late. When she returned to the office, it was already past 10 o'clock. After more than an hour of work, it was lunch break. Yi Qianqian had just finished her meal, so she wasn't hungry. She sat in the office, unfinished with her work. However, this kind of hard work was not quiet. After a while, he received a call. Fong Tong Tong. When Yi Qianqian saw the name, she immediately stopped what she was doing. Her phone vibrated incessantly. Fong Tong Tong's name was very eye-catching. The cutest bestie. Cute? Best friend? Yi Qianqian thought about it for a moment and decided to hang up. She used the system's text message to reply. "Hello, I'm busy right now. Call me back later." His friendly tone was so distant that it was indescribable, but everything seemed to be a matter of course. However, Yi Qianqian felt a little sad. She stared at the computer in front of her, but she couldn't seem to get into working mode. Ding dong, Fong Tong Tong was on WeChat. "Cutest bestie. Qianqian, I'm back in Yin Town." It was just a few words, but Yi Qianqian stared at it for a long time. A few minutes later, Fong Tong Tong sent another WeChat message. "Old Shun is a good man. Cherish him. Don't be so willful in the future. The slap you gave him yesterday made him very sad." Yi Qianqian laughed in exasperation. "Sisai, let's talk? Where are you?" "Cutest bestie. Home, Sisai, my house." "Cutie bestie. Yeah, I'm packing. Old Shun is helping me too. He's trying to persuade me not to leave, but I don't think it's appropriate." "Cutie bestie, I know what I said might cause you to misunderstand, but I've never told you that the person I'm taking care of recently is my boyfriend." "You've misunderstood." Yi Qianqian found it more and more miraculous. She laughed out loud and sent a few question marks over. But no matter how she looked at it, she felt that the word best friend was extremely irritating. She clicked on it and changed it to scheming be *tch. Chapter 1775. Sisai: "Sisai, did I slap you in the face? Why do you mind so much? Double scheming whore. I just feel sorry for old Shun." When Yi Qianqian heard what Fong Tong Tong said, she found it even more hilarious. Moving his fingers, he asked, "What position should I use?" "Double scheming whore. Old Shun treats you so well. You keep saying that you don't want to marry him, but at the same time, you're dragging him down. Isn't that too unfair? Qianqian, although you're my good friend, I can't stand it anymore. No man can stand being treated like that by a woman in public. Moreover, that place is the hospital where Old Shun works. All his colleagues are there. Don't you think it's inappropriate? The more Yi Qianqian read, the darker her expression became. Scheming whore. I think you should apologize to Shun Jilie and admit your mistake. Maybe old Shin will forgive you. Sisai, really? Is that so? Zixixi, all right, shut up. I'll handle my own business. Aren't you going back to Yin Town? Go back. I'll look for you when I'm free. Perhaps one day when they met again, she would still be her, and she would still be her. After all, they were from the same place and grew up together. It was impossible to say that they would not have any connections in the future. They threw this matter to the back of their minds and forgot about it. Yi Qianqian looked at the string of words she had sent out. Her eyes darkened, and her emotions were complicated. This was the biggest concession she could make. Fong Tong Tong, oh, Fong Tong Tong, don't force me. However, Fong Tong Tong did not seem to give up. She sent another message. Qianqian, I know you're angry at me, but what I said is for your own good. Double scheming whore. You like old Shin so much, and I don't want you two to break up. As long as you apologize, this might be over. Old Shun is so nice to you. He won't hold a grudge against you. The corners of Yi Qianqian's mouth twitched, and her eyes were filled with mockery. Sisai, Shinjilia told you? Double-minded whore. No, that's what I think. Sisai, you like Shinjilia so much. If I break up with Shinjilia, wouldn't that be perfect for you? Double-minded whore. Qianqian, you misunderstood. I don't really like him. Sisai, you told me that yourself, didn't you? You said that you liked Shinjilia very, very much, and that you wanted to be with him. Moreover, the two of you loved each other. Am I dreaming? Weren't you the one who said that? Fong Tong Tong seemed to have sunk into silence. She did not reply for a long time. There was a fire burning in Yi Qianqian's heart. The message that Fong Tong Tong had sent was literally a plea for peace. Given Yi Qianqian's personality, there was no way she would apologize to anyone when she wasn't in the wrong. Especially Shinjilia, the boyfriend who had cheated on her. Yet, Fong Tong Tong said those words so naturally. Her motive was already very clear. This was sowing dissension. If Shinjilia hadn't already found her, Yi Qianqian might have believed him. But now, it was clear that Fong Tong Tong had lost the initiative. Double-minded whore. I did say that, but that was just to hide the fact that old Shun was in the hospital. I didn't do it on purpose. Chapter 1776. Scheming whore. Qianqian, why did you say that? You're really disappointing me. Sisai, Yi Qianqian was so angry that she laughed. She couldn't take it anymore and made a call. Fong Tong Tong quickly picked up the call. However, the moment she picked up the phone, Yi Qianqian heard sobbing coming from the other end. The words that Yi Qianqian wanted to hurl at Fong Tong Tong were stuck in her throat. She couldn't say a single word. Fong Tong Tong's sobbing voice could be heard. She choked and shouted, Qianqian, how could you say that to me? No matter what, I can't have anything to do with your boyfriend. Yi Qianqian was speechless. If one were to ask Yi Qianqian what annoyed her the most in her life, it would be this kind of woman who cried like Sister Lin. When Yi Qianqian heard Fong Tong Tong's sobs, she lost her temper. She was so frustrated that she wanted to curse. She roared. However, she didn't know what to say when the words were on the tip of her tongue. Fong Tong Tong's sobs grew louder. She said, I admit that I've been taking care of old Shun for the past few days, but I guarantee that I didn't have any improper thoughts about him. I swear to you. Are you done? Why are you crying? Yi Qianqian was extremely annoyed. Can crying solve the problem? Fong Tong Tong wailed and said, Qianqian, no matter what, you have to believe me. I've been taking care of old Shun for the past few days, but I've never thought about stealing your boyfriend. I admit that old Shun is very charming. He's handsome, rich, and he treats his girlfriend extremely well. However, I also know what's mine and what's not. Do you know, Qianqian? I really treat you as my best friend and bestie. This time, if old Shun hadn't stopped me from telling you about us, what happened between me and old Shin would have been an accident. If old Shin hadn't stopped me, I would have said that I've let you down. What? Yi Qianqian felt as if her heart was being squeezed tightly. What did you say happened between you and Shinjilia? What accident? Fong Tong Tong's sobs stopped abruptly. It was as if she immediately realized that she had said the wrong thing. Her voice became a little sluggish. What do you mean? Tell me clearly. Yi Qianqian's voice wasn't very calm. What happened between you and old Shun? Accident? However, Fong Tong Tong was silent. After a long while, she said, Old Shun truly loves you. No matter how much he lied to you, he still loves you. He's just afraid that you'll be sad. Let me ask you, what exactly happened between the two of you? What accident? Yi Qianqian was truly enraged. She raised her voice and slammed the table. She stood up and said, Explain yourself. Most of the people in the office had gone out, but there were still many colleagues who brought their own lunch boxes to eat in the company. They were eating when they heard Yi Qianqian's roar. Everyone turned to look at her. Yi Qianqian's eyes were slightly red. It was obvious that she was already furious. Not good. Her colleagues looked at each other in dismay. Soon, the chief editor walked out and bellowed. What's the matter, Yi Qianqian? Can't you let us take an afternoon nap? However, Yi Qianqian's attention wasn't on that. She was listening to the voice on the other end of the line. However, Fong Tong Tong did not reply. Instead, she heard the busy tone. Chapter 1777. The chief editor had already walked forward. Just as she was about to say something, she saw Yi Qianqian's reddened eyes. Yi Qianqian stared at the call screen on her cell phone. Her eyes welled up with tears. The chief editor did not expect Yi Qianqian to be like this. In the past 3 to 4 years, no one in the office had ever seen Yi Qianqian cry. Yi Qianqian's tears fell, but she quickly wiped them away and said, It's nothing. Sitting down again, the chief editor had already put away her aggressive attitude. She walked up and asked softly, What's wrong? Yi Qianqian tried her best to curl her lips into a smile, but her muscles were too tense. When she smiled, she looked even uglier than when she cried. The chief editor's heart tightened. She handed a tissue to Yi Qianqian and said, Don't cry. Don't cry. It would have been better if the chief editor hadn't said anything. As soon as she did, Yi Qianqian felt that everyone around her was looking at her. She pursed her lips and couldn't help but whimper softly. She choked out, It's fine. Go away. It's so embarrassing. The editor-in-chief was almost amused by her, but she felt that it would be too unkind to laugh when someone else was crying. He coughed lightly and said, If that's the case, I'm leaving. Wait a minute. Yi Qianqian whimpered. The chief editor stopped, turned around, and asked, What's wrong? I want to apply for leave. Chief editor, by the time he hailed a cab home, Fong Tong Tong had already left. Along the way, Yi Qianqian called Fong Tong Tong several times. In the beginning, no one answered. Later on, she couldn't get through. It was obvious that Fong Tong Tong had blocked her number. Yi Qianqian sat on the sofa and stared at the ceiling above her. She was in a daze. She sat there and stared at the ceiling above her. After lying in bed for a long time, Yi Qianqian finally remembered to call Shun Jilye. It was as if Shun Jilye had been waiting for his cell phone. He answered the call immediately. Hello, Qianqian. It was a familiar voice. It was as pleasant to the ears as before, and it made her emotions fluctuate. But at that moment, when Yi Qianqian heard the voice, she felt her heart tighten. Shun Jilye. Yi Qianqian's throat was a little dry and sounded a little hoarse. When Shun Jilye heard that, he felt that something was amiss. He looked at the time. It was 2 p.m. He still had the time to call at this time. He should not be busy, right? I don't need to work overtime today, right? Yeah, Yi Qianqian replied. Shun Jilye. Yes. Tell me honestly, what's your relationship with Fong Tong Tong? I think I made myself very clear this morning. There's nothing between me and Fong Tong Tong. The only relationship we have is that I'm your boyfriend and she's your bestie. However, I feel that your bestie isn't innocent. Can we not contact each other in the future? Fong Tong Tong's eyes widened. Is that so? Yi Qianqian was a little confused. You've been acting weird lately. I didn't mean to hide it from you, Qianqian. I just didn't want you to worry. No, I'm not talking about your hospitalization. In the past, you wouldn't explain so much in one sentence. In the past, you would only tell me that you have nothing to do with her, but now you're telling me not to contact her. What do you mean? Chapter 1778. Yes, he was not worthy of a deep friendship. Naturally, Yi Qianqian had felt it over the past 2 days. Apart from her disappointment, she also felt very sad. She was 26 years old this year. She had grown up with Fong Tong Tong and believed that she had never wronged her in any way. How could Fong Tong Tong be so cruel as to do such a thing? If Fong Tong Tong hadn't let the cat out of the bag, Yi Qianqian would never have guessed that there was such a relationship between them. But when these words came out of Shun Jilia's mouth, it made Yi Qianqian feel extremely sarcastic. Is that so? The reason why Shun Jilia felt that they couldn't have a close relationship was probably because he didn't want her to know about the accident between him and Fong Tong Tong. Yes, Shun Jilia didn't think too much about it. He knew that Yi Qianqian's willingness to call him was a good breakthrough. It was just an accident. Such a small matter would be forgotten in a few days. In the future, they could be together. Shun Jilia smiled and asked, "What would you like to eat tonight?" Yi Qianqian felt a sharp pain in her heart. How could he say such a thing? How could he say such words so easily? "Qianqian?" Shun Jilia called out again when he didn't hear a reply. Yi Qianqian felt a lump in her throat. After a while, she said, "Shun Jilia, do you think we're suitable?" When Shun Jilia heard that, he felt that something was amiss. "What do you mean? Let's break up." Yi Qianqian's voice was choked with sobs. "That's all. I'll tidy up your things and pack them up. Come and collect them when you have time." "Yi Qianqian, what do you mean by that?" Shun Jilia's expression was ugly. "Don't you find it boring to keep saying things like that?" "I'm not joking." Yi Qianqian sounded like she was about to cry. "I can't accept the fact that my man has such an unbreakable relationship with my bestie. Now, I don't want my bestie anymore. I don't want you either." "Qianqian." Shun Jilia had just finished the infusion. When he heard this, the veins on the back of his hand bulged, and blood rushed up the tube. However, the phone was quickly hung up. Yi Qianqian's voice was cut off from the other end of the line, leaving behind a heartbreaking, busy tone. Shun Jilia was about to go crazy. He suddenly threw his phone away, and the dull sound of it was especially loud in the ward. The other patients inside all looked over. They did not know what had happened. It was obvious that Shun Jilia had no intention of explaining himself. After he calmed down for a while, his flushed face turned a little pale. Only then did he remove the tube and pick up the phone. The phone was smashed so hard that a spider web appeared on the screen. Clicking on it, the screensaver with a photo of them. They leaned against each other and smiled brightly, like a perfect couple. It was just at the center point of this spider web happened to be right in the middle of them, without any deviation. Shun Jilia's heart skipped a beat. He gripped his phone tightly, gritted his teeth, and strode out. Gu Yuansheng was surprised to see Shun Jilia striding forward. He shouted, "Brother Shun, didn't you just get in 4? That's it." However, when she subconsciously looked at the back of his hand, she saw a patch of scarlet. Gu Yuansheng sucked in a breath of air and shouted, "Your hand, Gu Yuansheng." Chapter 1779. Gu Yuansheng hadn't expected Shun Jilia to say something like that. He stood rooted to the ground in bewilderment, scratching his head in confusion. She was about to say something when Shun Jilia turned and ran. When Gu Yuansheng saw the blood dripping from Shun Jilia's body, he was even more confused. He stomped his feet anxiously and wailed, "Who the F***CK did I offend? Hey, wait, your hand has to stop the bleeding first. Qianqian, you got off work long ago." The girl at the front desk of Eurasian Comics looked at Shun Jilia. Her eyes were burning with curiosity. "You're Qianqian's boyfriend, aren't you? Io, you're really handsome." Shun Jilia acted as if he hadn't heard her teasing. He panted and said, "It's not time to knock off yet. Why did you knock off so early?" Qianqian was in a bad mood today. I don't know who she was talking to on the phone, but she had an argument. She was so angry that she slammed the table and cried. It's the first time I've seen her cry. Shun Jilia was even more baffled when he heard that. "Quarrel?" He even slammed the table. How angry was Yi Qianqian to slam the table in a place like the office? But if it wasn't with him, then who was it with? The girl at the front desk leaned against the counter and looked at Shun Julia. She asked, "Did Qianqian refuse to answer your calls after you quarreled with her?" He frowned and said, "She's not with me. Do you know where Qianqian went?" Yi Qianqian looked at Shun Julia. "I don't know. Where else could she go? Kingstown is so big. She could go anywhere. Isn't she at home?" "Yes, home." Shun Julia quickly thanked him and turned to leave. He took a taxi all the way home. When he opened the door, he found that the house was empty. There was no Yi Qianqian or Fong Tong Tong. Right? Fong Tong Tong? Shun Julia's expression darkened. He flipped through his contact list and found Fong Tong Tong's number. He used the landline at home to call her. The phone was turned off. Yi Qianqian's phone had been switched off ever since. Shun Julia looked at the time. It was past 4 o'clock. Shun Julia sat on the sofa in defeat. He was speechless and upset. Annoying, too annoying. Suddenly, Shun Julia looked up and saw a sticky note pasted directly in front of him. There were black words written on it. Shun Julia walked forward and tore the note off. He saw the words written on it. "I've packed your clothes. If you still want the rest of the fitness equipment, you can move it slowly." It was Yi Qianqian's handwriting. Shun Julia turned his head and saw a suitcase behind the sofa. This was the largest suitcase in the house. It was 28 inches long. Shun Julia opened the suitcase. It was indeed filled to the brim. It was all Shun Julia's clothes. Her shoes were packed in a clean box with a plastic bag over them. Her underwear, socks, everything was there. Shun Julia unconsciously clenched his fists, and his teeth chattered. Yi Qianqian was serious this time. She really wanted to chase him away. Fong Tong Tong. It was all because of Fong Tong Tong. Shun Julia closed his eyes and calmed himself down. He sat down and called Yi Qianqian's home in Yintown. The person who answered the phone was Yi Qianqian's grandfather. The old man seemed to be in a good mood. He said, "Hello, who are you looking for?" He spoke in a dialect, but Shun Julia understood him. He replied in Mandarin, "Hello, Grandpa. Is Uncle Yi there?" Chapter 1780. Grandfather Yi didn't quite understand what he was saying. He mumbled, "Jinhua, have you paid the water and electricity bills?" Shun Julia didn't understand what Grandfather Yi was saying either. After a while, it was finally Yi Jinhua who answered the phone. Shun Julia heaved a sigh of relief and said, "Uncle Yi, it's been a while. I'm Shun Julia." "Oh, Shun, what's up?" Shun Julia would usually call home, but it was mostly to say hello. However, he rarely called in the afternoon. "It's like this, Uncle Yi. Qianqian's friend, Tong Tong, has returned to Yin Town, but her phone seems to be switched off. I wanted to ask you to pay attention. If she returns, please give me a call. Qianqian is worried." Yi Jinhua didn't suspect anything. He nodded and said, "I thought it was something serious. Okay, I'll go take a look later. If she returns, I'll ask her to give you a call. Okay?" "Okay. Thank you, Uncle." Shun Julia heaved a sigh of relief and began to greet Yi Jinhua. After asking about the general situation and saying that he would visit often, Shun Julia hung up the phone. The source of this incident was Fong Tong Tong. He had to find out what Fong Tong Tong had said. However, Yi Jinhua was Qianqian's father. He absolutely couldn't let Yi Jinhua know that he had quarreled with Qianqian. At this critical juncture, any mistake would be fatal. Shun Julia didn't want to lose, and he couldn't lose. By the time Fong Tong Tong returned to Yin Town, it was already nighttime. As soon as she got home, she was nagged by her mother. Although Mrs. Fong was nagging, she still doted on her daughter. She said, "Don't play for so long after you're back. By the way, why is your phone switched off?" When Fong Tong Tong heard that, she casually found an excuse and said, "It's out of battery." "Oh, then what were you doing earlier? Didn't you know to charge your phone?" Mrs. Fong rebuked her and waved her hand. "Qianqian can't get through to you. She's anxious now. You should call her now to let her know that you're safe." "How did you know?" Fong Tong Tong looked at her mother. "Will Qianqian still look for me at this time?" "Why wouldn't she? You just came back from Kingstown. Isn't it normal for Qianqian to call to find out if you're safe?" Mrs. Fong sighed and said, In my opinion, Qian is a reliable child. She has been pretty since she was young, has a wild personality, and is very smart. Now, she's a leader in a big company in a big city. She's really amazing. The boyfriend she found is also top-notch. He's handsome and rich. The two daughters of the Yi family are both blessed with good lives. When Fang Tong heard that, she felt upset. She snapped, "If she's that good, why don't you acknowledge her as your daughter? I want to know, who asked you to be so disappointing? You still haven't found a partner for me." Oh, by the way, did you know that your junior high school classmate, the guy who always said he wanted to marry you, is back? Oh, he's so handsome. You mean Wang Jinsheng? Yes, it's that young man. I heard that he worked in a farm after graduating from university. Now he plans to come back and work on his own. He came back with his father. It's just that his father's brain hasn't been working well for the past 2 years. How could this be? What's wrong with his brain? Chapter 1781. Fang Tong choked. No way. Did he go out and mess around? Well, he raped that woman. She's already in her 40s or 50s, and her son is already in college. Now that something like this happened, he's going to lose all his dignity. Mrs. Fang was a little sympathetic. But Wang Jinsheng is a pretty good guy. He's young and promising. His father's health is getting worse, and he doesn't have many years left. Hey, what do you mean? Fang Tong felt goosebumps all over her body. Are you planning to arrange a blind date with this guy? Why not? But he just came back not long ago, and I haven't had the time to visit him. It would be awkward if he's not single. If he's single, since he used to like you, you can ask him out to meet you. You already know him, and there's some foundation. It's different from other blind dates. Fang Tong was speechless and said in annoyance, "Are you that worried that your daughter won't be able to get married?" That's right. I used to think that Yi Qian would never be able to find a boyfriend because she was even more unruly than you. In the end, she's grown up and found a boyfriend who's so handsome and outstanding. Look. Can you do it? So what if he's outstanding? They still broke up. Fang Tong sat on the chair and lowered her head to turn on her phone. Mrs. Fang was shocked when she heard that. They broke up? How is that possible? Doesn't that guy like Qian very much? How could they break up? Can't Yi Qian dump him herself? Fang Tong said in annoyance. Besides, it's up to you. A mother wants to get married, and a man wants to cheat. No one can stop him. That can't be. That guy looks like a decent man. How could he cheat? Why not? Yi Qian is so boorish and doesn't act like a girl at all. Why would a man covet her? It's only right that they broke up. Shoo. Qian is a good person. She looks fierce, but she's just a paper tiger. It's not like you don't know her. How could she be cheated on? Mrs. Fang clapped her hands. No, you have to scold that guy. Hey, why are you so agitated? How can you not be excited? Qian is such a good girl. Aren't you worried that she has cheated on you? Fang Tong was speechless. Forget it. I was just joking. Look at how nervous you are. You treat her like your daughter, but she chased your daughter out of her house. Do you know that? Really? Of course it's true. Why else would I come back? Fang Tong looked aggrieved. Forget it. You don't believe me anyway. If you believe Yi Qian, you can treat her like your daughter. As she spoke, she stood up and prepared to leave. Madame Fang said anxiously, What? Did her boyfriend cheat on her and take it out on you? It's normal for him to be in a bad mood. Just give way and he'll be fine. Fang Tong felt even more aggrieved. She looked like she was on the verge of tears as she choked out. You don't know anything at all. She chased me away because she thought I seduced her boyfriend. Mrs. Fang turned pale with fright. How was that possible? My daughter isn't that kind of person at all. Did Yi Qian really say that? You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.